Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review, a comic book podcast at longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. I have on the line here, returning after the wonderful spotlight on Rough Riders, the creative team from Rough Riders, the interview that you have listened to and loved, I'm sure, as I did. But I have on the line again, George from the still defunct George and Tony Entertainment Show. Hey, George, how's it going?
Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me back on. Greetings from the red skies in Northern Virginia. We have a crisis.
Oh my God, a crisis.
The sky turned red during this storm, and I immediately thought of you in our call this evening, and I was waiting for the Flash to just come on by and save the multiverse. But we're okay here in Northern Virginia.
Well, I'll keep an eye out. I can see, because George and I are talking over Skype, and so using the video feed, so I can see George, he can see me. I'll keep an eye out in the background, George, to see if Flash just kind of shows up shimmering behind you, and then it's time to run.
Please make no mistake. If you see our benevolent overlord Bianca running up the stairs behind me, that just means the Anti-Monitor is here.
Are you sure Bianca isn't the Anti-Monitor?
Listen, I'm not saying anything. I have to live with her.
I shouldn't say that. She could probably hear me.
And she could probably get over there in a flash. No pun intended.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Eric, speaking of Skype, people can't see you or me, but I would like to say, hey, you're looking smart sporting that Comic Logic t-shirt over there. Comic Logic in Ashburn, Virginia. Look at you. What do you do with that in Idaho?
Totally incidental, George. It's like, for some reason I had it on and we had already decided to record tonight. I don't know how that happened.
They're going to be very happy to know.
Well, like, I think I've said this before. One of these days I'm gonna have to get out there and visit with you, go to Comic Logic and see what it's all about. So one of these days.
Please do. And remember to sweeten the pot for the rest of your family. Remind them that I will play tour guide in Washington, D.C.
Oh, well, that is something I will have to talk to my wife about, because going to the eastern part of the United States, the eastern seaboard, that's one of our major trips that we would like to do before we get too old to travel, which is unfortunately not too many years away.
I doubt that sincerely. If that's the way you guys feel, then get over here right away.
Yeah. All right. So George and I are here talking again about this month's previews, the May 2018 previews catalogs. And I use the plural specifically because, and this is partly why George and I wanted to get together and talk about this, because this was the first month that the DC previews catalog has been split out of the main book. So it's like the Marvel's previews catalog all by itself. And so I've got three. I've got the DC, the Marvel, and the big book, the big previews book here. And we thought, well, there's a lot of great stuff coming out. It's the May previews, so that's May, June, July, right?
Ooh, summertime. Yeah, right there in the summertime.
Yeah, it's the summertime stuff. Yeah, Soliciting Comics on sale in July. So yeah, we got all these big things going on. So yeah, we just thought we'd get together and tell each other things that we thought we'd like, or perhaps the other person would like, or things that at least from my perspective, things that perhaps my listeners might enjoy picking up or taking another look at when they look at their previews catalog. So we are going to start with the newest member of the catalog set, the DC previews, which actually you can find online digitally at dccomics.com. So if you don't happen to get the print catalog like I do, you can go check that out. Although, George, I don't know if you've checked it out yourself, but a few weeks back when they released this, I went to their website and had a hard time navigating their file, which that is not good. That's not a good start to this new endeavor that they're doing.
I agree. I am strictly a print catalog guy, though, because I feel I would miss too much if I strictly went digital. Mm-hmm. Because with the printed page in front of me, I go through every page of this book.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was digital, where a lot of people probably stop after publishers they know, and there's so much more in this book.
Yeah, of course.
And in fact, listen, everybody, get out your checkbooks, because if you want one of everything in the book, Previews has been kind enough to let us know that one of everything would cost you the small sum of $75,865.48.
Oh, my Lord.
So knowing that dollar figure, when you place your orders with your local comic book shop or DCBS, if you don't have a comic book shop near you, keep in mind what percentage of that $75,865.48 you are spending.
So wait, is that the total price for everything, including
That's what they say.
T-shirts and toys and all that stuff?
That's what they say at the beginning of the book.
My gosh. Could you imagine having that much money that you could buy the entire contents of the Previews catalog?
No, but I went to a sandwich shop very recently, and they had one of those World Series of Poker type things on TV. And the bets that they were dropping lead me to believe that they'd have the money to buy everything in the Previews book.
I'm sure, yeah.
Especially if they came out ahead in that poker game. So just get ready, folks. Get that checkbook out. Because, Eric, too bad. Rest in peace, Ed McMahon. I wish we had Ed McMahon here because this is going to be a marathon. It's going to be like a telethon, considering how many things that we have earmarked here. So get a cup of coffee, folks. You'll see how long the show is. But Eric and I anticipate it to be, 5-6 hours? So be ready, folks.
Yeah.
Jerry Lewis, here we come.
Yeah, that is a possibility. This might be a longer episode. But George and I will endeavor to speed our way through it so as not to take up too much time.
That's right. No. It's I know a lot of other shows do this, but Eric and I handle it differently, and I hope you enjoy how we handle previews.
Yeah. Hey, George, since you mentioned placing bets, here's a thought. What are the odds that Batman and Catwoman are going to stay married for the long term? Because
that's a good question.
Yeah, because I say that because on the DC Previews catalog, the cover shows Batman kissing Catwoman, presumably after they have been joined in matrimony.
Yes.
So that leads off the DC Previews as we go through this. And of course, that is the first thing that I wanted to point out. And so George and I are just going to go back and forth for things as we go through these catalogs. And of course, Batman number 50.
Yeah.
The big wedding issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm getting Batman currently, the Tom King written Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very much looking forward to this.
I have not been picking up Batman after you and I had our discussion on the War of Jokes and Riddles. I only picked it up for that, moved on to other things, but I will be picking up Batman number 50.
Oh, okay.
I'm a fan of anniversary issues. I know things have been building up to this. And you know what? Batman is 50 issues old. I think there's going to be some legs with this character. I think we made that joke before,
That's right.
And I'm going to carry that joke over right now.
Yeah. Well, and George, you could continue with issue 51 because the honeymoon is part of that, the part of the story of that issue.
Oh, there's going to be a honeymoon in 51?
Yeah. And
so
more
I guess
importantly,
they are getting married then.
Yeah. More importantly, Dick Grayson is running around Gotham City dressed as Batman again. So, I got to check that out.
Fun. Yeah.
Like I wasn't going to anyway.
Yeah. I know you must have seen this, the gif with Fry from Futurama saying, "Take my money." So that's what you are to DC right now. Just take my money.
Essentially,
right?
Yeah. Especially on Tom King stuff.
Yes.
Not to be outdone. The next page.
Mm-hmm.
Page 2 of the catalog. Catwoman number 1. And
yes.
Travis and I talked about this in one of our Breaking Late News episodes a month or two ago. I think it was the March news. I forget now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Joelle Jones, who has most recently done a stint on one of the Tom King Batman stories, and also does her own wonderful create her own work. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name of it.
Lady Killer.
Good Lady Killer. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Thank you, Ed McMahon.
Yeah, right. Great stuff. But now Joelle Jones is going to write and draw a new Catwoman series.
Yeah, see, and that's the curious thing, isn't it? I can see why you're wondering whether or not the wedding is going to actually happen. But I mean, if they're going on a honeymoon in number 51. But did you notice what she's holding in her hand in that?
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah. She's I mean, we could say what she's holding, right?
Yeah.
She's holding a copy of Batman number 50 in her hand. I think that's pretty fun.
Yeah. It's an interesting meta thing, and I'm not sure what that means exactly, but it's kind of cool.
And I don't know, this is a family-friendly type show, isn't it, Eric? But I mean, she looks like she's dressed for the honeymoon, doesn't she?
She does.
She does,
well,
yes.
And the solicitation does say the wedding night's barely over, but Catwoman's back on the streets. So,
very interesting.
Yeah. And I'm really curious what they're going to do in terms of, how much is Batman going to be in this book and interrelating between the two titles, considering they're married. So, I mean, they could choose to totally ignore it, or they could really weave it in between the two books.
It's very curious. And the way DC has been handling continuity, or the lack thereof, it's so confusing these days. They'll make it work somehow.
Yeah.
Ever since the whole Rebirth thing, and now you got Doomsday Clock, and things just don't seem to jive very well in some comics. It's just fun stories at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
So, the wedding of the century. So you have your invitation?
Somehow I wasn't on the list, I guess.
Oh, come on, Eric. You've been reading it since the beginning. You should have been on that
right.
list. Darn it.
Exactly.
I guess you have to be a
Tom
supervillain.
King.
I know. Come on. Jeez. You have to be a supervillain to be on the list, apparently. All right. What else you got in the book there, Eric?
Well, not to be outdone by Batman, Superman starts off, and this is, again, this is part of the reason why I wanted to get together with George and talk about this particular preview, is because there's a lot of new stuff coming out at this time, including the new monthly Superman series. So we get a new Superman #1 and Action Comics 1001, which is so weird to see 4 digits on a comic book.
But I'm so happy they're there.
Mm-hmm.
I even as a kid, I always wanted to see Action Comics hit 1,000, and now that it's there, I just wanted to keep on going. No renumbering, just keep going.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You're not buying DC Beach Blanket Bad Guys Special #1?
I was hoping you'd bring that up. You know what? No, not this time.
Okay, all right.
I haven't. Yeah. $10. It's $10 for these one shots, and they really have to. I don't know. They got to bring something special to it. And the last couple that I've gotten, these one shots like this, haven't really delivered for me. So I'll pass on this one.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's face it. We're in the 2000s now, the 2000 teens. You can't be as gratuitous as you could have been in the 90s when they started these swimsuit issues. So not for me. All right. So I know you're a Brian Michael Bendis fan. So I take it you're going to be buying the Superman books.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious to see what Bendis does on Superman. I know some of my fellow comic fans are not so warm about, not so keen on Bendis coming over, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, what did you think about the last story in Action Comics 1000? And have you had a chance to read it yet?
Oh yeah, I have.
Okay. Was that enough of a tease that if you weren't a fan of the writer to make you come back for more?
I have to say that was probably one of my least favorite stories in that Action Comics 1000.
Okay, I agree with you there. And then what about, did you get that 25-cent zero issue DC Universe or whatever it was
DC
called?
Nation?
DC Nation. Have you read that?
I have not yet.
Okay.
That's coming in my shipment soon.
Okay, because there was another story in there that I guess, teases what he's going to do in either Action or Superman. And I'm not quite sure that would have been the thing to whet my appetite for a Superman book either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not much of a fan of his. Sorry, folks. Please keep listening. Eric is still here. If it was just me, I can understand. But I'm actually going to pass on all that. Yeah. So I'll be very interested to hear you when I know you will be speaking about it on your show in the future. I will be very interested to hear what you have to say.
All right. I do plan to do that. So yeah.
Oh, I know you do. I'm looking forward to it.
As I will on the next couple books that I have here on my list, George, which are the new Justice League books.
Okay. Yes. Now I definitely am interested in your opinion on these.
Well, so we have Justice League Dark #1 and Justice League Odyssey #1.
Yes.
And I love the whole this new Justice League Dark. I actually enjoyed the New 52 version of this book.
Too. That I enjoyed.
Yeah, and so they're bringing this back, but they're bringing back some of the magical characters or some of the magical adjacent characters.
Mm-hmm.
But more interestingly, they've decided to bring Wonder Woman in as, I guess, the leader of the group, which totally makes sense considering her origins.
Right.
But she's never been put in that place before, and I just find that really fascinating. So I really, really hope they do her justice. No pun intended. Sorry. In this new book. So even though I'm not the biggest James Tynion fan in terms of his writing, he's okay. It's not bad or anything. It's just hasn't really excited me yet for anything he's done.
Well, maybe he will now.
Maybe he will now. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And besides, Detective Chimp really elevates any story that character appears in. So
and here's another thing. Again, I'm going to have to take a pass on both of these. I almost went for Justice League Odyssey, not realizing that either one of these books was coming out of the Justice League No Justice miniseries that's going on.
Right.
I thought that this was going to be an updated version of Cosmic Odyssey from back in the 80s or the 90s.
That would have been an interesting take, yeah.
Yeah, and then when I realized what was going on here, and it put into perspective what was happening, and it came out of this series that's going on, I think, right now, right? Isn't it happening right now?
I believe the first issue at least is out at the time of this recording.
Much to the chagrin of the guys at my local comic shop, I have to say I don't want to get involved.
Wait, is it the weekly nature, or is it just the event quality of it, or what?
It is more the money. I hate to say it, but for instance, before you and I started the call today, we were kind of going to talk about our pull lists and stuff like that. But my pull list is very, very small, and the way I seem to spend more money is getting some of the stuff that's in the back of the book. Well, now that's what would be considered the main 600-page catalog now that DC is in its own book. I haven't totally abandoned DC and Marvel yet in the serialized storytelling that they have, but I've really limited what I spend on that and what I get involved with. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, I have opted to not do it, which makes me a very bad person to do a preview show. Although, while I may not necessarily be planning to purchase this stuff, it doesn't mean I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And believe me, I have plenty of things that I'm interested in.
Yeah, this show is not about, or this episode is not about what are the things you going to buy from previews. It's about the things that that
interest
would interest us. Yeah, but yeah, I'll be getting this. The mix of characters is very interesting. I kind of look at it in terms of, is this a car crash waiting to happen, or is this do they have some sort of grand design in mind that totally makes sense to them, and they're going to prove it on the page?
True.
Because it makes a lot of sense. Got Starfire, one of the Green Lanterns, the Jessica Cruz Green Lantern, Cyborg. Yeah, I can kind of see why Cyborg would be involved in this.
Well, DC just keeps pushing Cyborg down our throats.
They do, yes, but they have a planned movie down the road, so I imagine that's partly why. Because Cyborg's never. I mean, he has a good strong following of fans, from the New Teen Titans days. But I don't know. I like Cyborg, but he's never really been a headliner to me, a headliner type character to me. So
I agree, and I guess when they did the New 52, and he kind of took Martian Manhunter's place as a founding member, so to speak, of Justice League, that turned me off because I see him with the Titans history and not with the Justice. Not to say somebody from the Titans can't be on the Justice League, but it's more like, don't forget. I know it was a whole new universe and a whole new reality, but there's something about having him part of the New Teen Titans that if that's lost, I don't know if the character's for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
in his defense, I guess
I'm a curmudgeon.
I
know
will
that.
say I liked the idea of why they put him on the Justice League, for the New 52. I thought that was a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But they have Darkseid on this team.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Well, I mean, again, if Detective Chimp is a selling point for you for Justice League Dark, maybe Darkseid is the selling point for Odyssey. I don't know. But you know what's getting me here, Eric?
Okay.
We're already a couple of pages in. And except for the beach blanket bingo or whatever the heck that summer special was called, you're pretty much all in for these couple of books that they've
Yeah.
Yeah. They got your number.
DC's my wheelhouse, so I tend to go to those things quite a bit.
There's nothing wrong with that.
However, since you mentioned that, there's not a whole lot as far as the monthly books go.
You mean as we go further into the book?
Yeah, from there I skip to more towards the back of this book. I skip another 30 some pages before I have something else I wanted to mention. So
you've totally you're not going for Doomsday Clock?
Well, I mean, there are certain things that I'm getting right now that are continuing that that I'll still get, like Doomsday Clock.
Now,
even
how do you feel as a reader about the speed with which Doomsday Clock is going, because now it's bi-monthly?
Oh, jeez.
Do you feel that is stretching out what the intent of Rebirth was, and maybe other titles have to make adjustments so that they don't do any reveals to what Doomsday Clock might reveal to us toward the end?
Well, as I understand it, this is more or less in the future of the DC universe, not like what's going on, now in the DCU.
So in the end, this isn't going to explain the whole Rebirth thing?
I don't know. It might, but
okay.
I think that they planned this. Unfortunately, I think they maybe planned for delays by setting it slightly ahead. I could be wrong about this, but that's kind of my impression of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Man, I got to say, George, I'm really kind of disappointed about Doomsday Clock so far.
Well, here's the thing. Like a lot of Image books where you have that built-in break between story arcs, I always forget what the heck happened when the next story arc begins. And I guess with my feeble mind, a bi-monthly book that has each issue being as dense as it is, which I'm happy about that they're as dense, but I forget. So now when an issue comes out, I say to myself, am I going to read this now? Which would mean I might have to reread some of the other stuff, or am I going to do something else? And I'm falling a little more behind, which makes me wonder, am I as interested as I thought I was?
Well, and what's in here is solicitation for number 6 out of 12. We got 6 more issues after this comes out to go. I'm like, come on, let's get going.
I know.
Let's move on to the next thing.
There's a little momentum problem, I think.
Yeah.
And I was excited about it. But now that excitement has waned.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the quality. And if it takes the extra time for the quality, okay, more power to you. But I don't know, maybe make 2 original graphic novels or something. I don't know. Too late now.
Hey, speaking of quality and denseness and whatnot, have you noticed the price changes for the books?
No, wait, what do you mean?
So when they did Rebirth, when they announced Rebirth,
yes.
Over a year ago, something like that.
Gosh, probably almost 2 now, right?
Is it? Okay. They,
I'm guessing.
No, you're right. Yeah. They announced that the double shipping books would be still $2.99.
Yes.
And so, and they were what, 20 pages, 22 pages?
You know something? I don't know, but I think you're right. Maybe about 20?
Yeah, I think so. And then, so now I'm looking at these. That's, after I flipped through the catalog the first time, I wasn't paying attention to price, but as I was going through to make the list for our talk, I started noticing all the prices on here. And so there's a lot of these books that are now 32 pages. And they're $3.99. So
but they're not bi-monthly anymore.
I assume that they are monthly books.
Right. I said that wrong. I should have said twice a month rather than bi-monthly.
Right. So,
I didn't even notice that.
But what's odd is that they're not consistent. So, for example, issue 50 of The Flash, I just happened to turn to that page just now. Mm-hmm. Issue 50, of course, that's a quote unquote anniversary issue, right?
Right.
It's 40 pages for $3.99. And so, like Justice League, the 2 Justice League books that we just talked about, those are 32 pages for $3.99. And then Flash number 51.
Okay.
So obviously they're double shipping. Right. That's $2.99 for 32 pages. So $2.99 for a double ship book.
Right.
32 pages. $3.99 for ostensibly or presumably is a monthly book. $3.99 for 32 pages. What are they doing? This makes no sense.
Well, there's overhead with this new catalog they're printing, so maybe I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm a little peeved at DC for whatever shenanigans they're pulling here for the number of pages and the price per page and all that stuff. But and then you get, so this is the next thing on my list, George. And if I'm skipping too far ahead, we can jump back. But
that's quite all right. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention, because it was forefront of my mind after we talked to Patrick Oliff.
Oh, yes.
Scooby Apocalypse number 27. He mentioned it on episode 137 when we did the Rough Riders interview. So his art in that issue is coming out, and it's $3.99 for 32 pages. So considering that this is, I was going to say Scooby-Doo Team Up is more of a, quote unquote kids book, right? Than maybe Scooby Apocalypse. So I forget I was going to say that. But $4 for a Scooby book. I don't know. Something about that just doesn't seem right?
Yeah. But with Pat Oliff art, maybe worth the price of admission.
True. And very true.
I think in issue number 25, which is probably on the stands now, or maybe in a couple of weeks, but big story plot, big story beat happens in issue number 25. I'm not going to say what it is, especially if somebody doesn't get previews, but big changes in the world of Scooby-Doo in issue number 25.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
In fact, I'm surprised it didn't make the news, but I guess because Scooby Apocalypse happens in another universe, no one's paying attention. Right. Yeah. Well, you skipped one of the things about the new catalog, the DC catalog here, is it's in alphabetical order, and it mixes and matches the different imprints that they have. So since you skipped over to S, I'm just going to go back and say one of the things that's on my pull list is Mr. Miracle, and the cover to number 10 looks beautiful. But I'm going to say this, Eric. Here's another thing where I know it's sacrilege, but I'm not enjoying Mr. Miracle like I thought I would.
Oh,
and now, I love the artwork, and just like Batman, Tom King is paired with some beautiful people who do beautiful artwork. But I don't know. Maybe I just have to read all 12 issues in a row to really get it. I mean, I appreciate some of the story beats that he puts in there, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about the New Gods, and I don't care. But I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would, and I think I'm just buying it because I think I should be buying. Yeah. But anyway, it is on my pull list, so I didn't want to skip it and not mention Mr. Miracle.
Yeah, that Dark Side cover that they have in here, that's I tell you what, that's one of the coolest depictions of Dark Side I've ever seen. That's
something that you put in one of those hard case type things and you put it on your wall. That's a beautiful image right there.
And I guess I assume this is the cover by Nick Darrington. So
yes, I think so. I think you're right.
I mentioned that. It's funny you mentioned that particular cover, George, because that was originally on my list, and so I started. Before we got together, I started crossing things out because my list was way too long.
Yeah, too long. Yeah. Speaking of being too long, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I do want to mention Plastic Man. Number 2 is solicited here by writer Gail Simone, and I was going to put it on my poll list. I know it's a miniseries. I didn't, but if anybody's a fan of Gail Simone, don't pass this one up. I think it'll probably be fun, and I'm upset I'm not getting it. Maybe I'll just get it in a trade someday or something, but right now I'm not getting it. But don't be like me. Get it.
Yeah, and I like the Bilquis, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Bilquis Evely, the cover they've got here, or at least.
Yeah, The artwork looks like it's going to be nice.
Yeah.
And I like Plastic Man. I'm upset I'm not getting it, but just couldn't do it. Although one thing I am getting, based on your recommendation, is well, not your recommendation, but your review made me pick it up, and I am continuing with it, at least for now. I am buying Sideways. One of those new, what do they call it, the New Age of Heroes
Yep.
books. That and the Terrifics have made it to my pull list.
Yeah. Issue 6 is solicited here. I'm probably I have to read some more, but this might be my final issue.
Of which one?
Sideways.
Both? Oh, Sideways. Okay. Yeah. I could see that possibly happening, especially if they don't bring back that, what was his name? Tempest Futile? Well, I forgot what his, oh, actually, no, what am I doing? That's the, that's the Twitter handle of one of my frequent co-hosts and good friend, Rob Shade. I just keep his Twitter handle. Sorry, Rob. Maybe I get a lot of followers now. I forgot what the big timey-wimey guy.
Yeah. The
Sideways
issue number one
was called. Yeah,
I forget
I want to
too.
see more of that guy. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
But then here on page 51, I mean, speaking of our Rough Riders conversation from a week ago as of this recording, I don't know when this is coming out, but Adam Glass, the writer of Rough Riders, is writing Teen Titans number 20. He's starting with the Teen Titans. Looks like he has Damian redoing the team here. He mentioned that during our interview.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And considering that, and I didn't get a chance to tell Mr. Glass this, but considering when he came on to the New 52 Suicide Squad,
mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that series. In fact, when I getting prepared for that talk, and I realized, oh yeah, he's the one that wrote the Suicide Squad that I enjoyed so much. Not only did I, buy issue number 1 because, I bought just about every New 52 title that they came out with when they launched way back when.
Oh, just to check them out.
Just to check them out. And that was one of the ones I kept returning to and like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this. And then, I stopped getting it with the final issue that he wrote. So,
really?
Yeah, I guess that says something.
Hey, speaking of the Rough Riders guys, I know the letterer Sal Cipriani, he's lettering all sorts of things. I don't have anything handy of his, but I do want to call out the colorist, Gabe Altiab. I want to show you this. The listeners can't see this, but I'm going to tell you what it is. It is one of the free Comic Book Day comics. It is the Overstreet Guide to Collecting, and Gabe did the inks on the cover.
Oh, okay.
It's just to let anybody know if they didn't get it at their local comic shop or weren't able to get any of the free comics on Free Comic Book Day. The cover is the Three Stooges as Valiant characters. Mo is Bloodshot, Curly is Exo Manowar, and I guess Larry is Ninjak. I'm not sure who he's supposed to be there. I'm not as familiar with the Valiant characters as I should be. But anyway, Gabe did the inks on that one. So you never know when the Rough Riders team are going to show up.
Will pop up, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. On the next page, we have Titans number 23. So, I had dropped Titans not too long ago, but given that they're kind of relaunching the book after the events of Justice League No Justice, I thought I might jump back on just to see what's going on here.
How long ago did you drop off? Has it been a while?
It was, I don't remember the issue now. Which number it was.
Was there ever really a payoff to what they teased that if you read Titans, it would help you with the whole rebirth thing?
No, not at all. Okay. Not in my opinion anyway, which is partly why I dropped it. Is like, well, if you're not getting to the point and you're not really telling interesting stories about the characters, which I didn't think they were, I'm not gonna continue to get it. So hopefully
I'm a little curious if this Flash war in Flash might have something to do with it, since it seems the Flash always has something to do when a new multiverse or new section of the multiverse is born.
Right.
I wonder if that might have something to do with it, although it doesn't seem to be teased that way. I mean,
no, not at all.
If it was, they'd let you know.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what's fueling these rumors that went around over the weekend about, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, George, but a lot of people I think it came out of a Bleeding Cool speculation. I won't say article, but okay. that would be too generous, but a Bleeding Cool speculation that DC is going to reboot once again.
Oh, no, really?
To the point that Jim Lee came out several times and said, no, we're not doing it. Of course, that just fuels the speculation that he's, protesting too much. So it must be true. They are going to do it.
Of course. Any other monthly titles that you got there, Eric, that interest
nothing,
you or that are on your pull lists?
No, not that I want to mention.
All right. Well, you did say you had a lot of trades.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Share away.
Let's see here. So I love, you mentioned the Red Skies from Crisis earlier.
Yeah, it was pretty scary a little while here.
And I was laughing because one of the things that is in the book that I kind of glommed onto was, I'm trying to find the actual page here. Where'd it go? Here it is on page 63. The Crisis on Infinite Earths Companion Deluxe Edition hardcover. Huh. So it claims to have all the tales that tied into Crisis on Infinite Earths collected here. So some Justice League issues, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman issues, the Loser Special as well, which is something I already have in my collection.
I would guess that one's hard to find.
That's what I was going to say, but I wasn't sure if that was true or not, so I didn't want to say it. But yeah, that's what I recall as well.
Oh, I'm just taking a guess because I don't think a lot of people would have been buying the Losers,
right? Exactly
at the time,
exactly. So what I need to do is look at my collection to see how many of these particular issues I actually already have that I may not remember. I mean, obviously, I have the new Teen Titans ones. I might have I have the Blue Devil ones, and a few other things as well. But if it turns out that I only have a few of these, I probably will pick this up, just because it's Crisis, and I always was curious back then, back in the 80s, when it was coming out, what was happening among the other books, and so this would be a chance to sort of go back in time and experience that again for the first time.
Did you say that's a trade or a hardcover?
It's a hardcover.
So what do they get you for that?
This is, maybe I won't get it. Retails for $75.
So it's like an omnibus. How many pages would that
512,
be?
512 pages. So,
all right, let me ask you this. If you were to ever revisit some big event like Crisis, Secret Wars, even Secret Wars 2 or whatever, and there were, whether it be in these omnibus editions or you went back into your back catalog and you said, you know what, I want to revisit this. I have the issues. Let me read it. Would you go so far as to go to those ancillary titles, or would you stick to the main story? Like, for instance, even to keep it current, say something like Secret Empire or Secret Invasion or Siege from Marvel. Those kind of miniseries had a ton of tie-ins. Would you stick to the main story for whatever you were trying to reread, or would you try and, like in this case, incorporate those outside titles?
That depends on what I plan to do with that information. So if I wanted to do a spotlight on Crisis, for example, which I'm not saying I'm going to do, I would want to read all that extra stuff because it informs the main story, the main title. But if it's just for me, for my enjoyment, I'd probably stick to the main one.
I think, this is the curmudgeon in me coming out again, I think that those original events probably read better as an individual storyline than the current events would. Because even when I was reading the current Secret Wars, I felt I was missing something. And I only read Secret Wars. I didn't read any of the outside titles. And I didn't enjoy it, yet everybody loves it so much. And I didn't like it. And I feel I missed something by not reading other stories. Whereas I could go back to Crisis. I could go back to Infinity Gauntlet with, that's fresh in people's minds. I'm not sure if I could go back to Infinity War or Infinity Crusade. I haven't done that in a while, but those older ones they might have had some tie-ins, but I don't think they were so key to the main story that you couldn't enjoy just reading that story.
Yeah.
Without having those other issues handy.
I don't know.
And I might be in the minority in how I feel about this, but that's how I feel these recent events are.
I know that, to go back to the Crisis Companion, some of those tie-ins were pretty loose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how much you would get out of it in terms of trying to connect it to the main series. So as I recall, for the few issues that I do have that I remember reading, I mean, some of it could just be, hey, look at the red skies. And that was about it.
Right.
So, or the Monitor, had a quick one panel appearance,
right.
And that was all it was. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing to ponder, sure.
And to the poor people reading it back then, if they weren't picking up Crisis and the Monitor just showed up, they'd be like, "What the heck was that?"
Yeah, right.
That's the part where it doesn't make sense. Any other trades?
I have this in hardcover, but the trade version of the Legion of Superheroes, the Silver Age, Volume 1 will be coming out. And that's a more manageable $25 price for almost 330 pages. So if you want to read some early, let's see here, adventure and action comics, some Superboy issues as well thrown in there of the early Legion stuff. But like I said, I have the hardcover, so I don't need the trade.
Right, yeah.
And then on the next 2 pages, just real quick, The New Gods by Jack Kirby, trade paperback. Since you had just mentioned Mr. Miracle and maybe not having the familiarity with the New Gods. Well, George, here you go.
Yeah.
And then on the next page, the New Teen Titans Volume 9 trade, where we get into the Baxter run, the 1984 series, collected in this new trade. You get issues 1 through 9, which would be probably a good stopping point for me to stop getting these New Teen Titans trades, because after that,
you have been?
Yeah.
But you've been getting them?
Oh yeah, I've been getting them all. Just I don't know why, because I have all the issues. But trades.
Do you read them? Do you read them when you get them? Like, for instance, you said you had the hardcover of the Legion of Superheroes.
Well, so on the Legion, that's easy. I will read that because I've not read a lot of the really early Legion stuff. I've read smatterings here and there in other collections, like the old DC Digests.
Oh yeah.
But I haven't read them all and read them in order. So that's easy. But the Titans, I've read all the issues, but for some reason I wanted to get the trades as well. I guess mostly because out of convenience, so that when I did feel like reading Titans books, and occasionally I do, it's easy to grab it off the shelf and read it as opposed to getting into my boxes and pulling out the issues.
Fair enough.
So
I think we all do that to a certain extent.
But yeah,
well, actually,
how much money am I wasting on that though?
You know what?
For stuff I already
just did it this weekend. I was at the mall with my wife Connie. We went to a Books A Million. She was looking at the bargain rack, and whenever they have the bargain rack, on one side there's always graphic novels. So I was taking a look, and there was a Marvel 2-in-1, Marvel Masterworks, Volume 2, which was number 11 through 20, plus annual number 1 and a Fantastic Four annual. Now, I have all the Marvel 2-in-1s. That's one of the things I collected when I was a kid. Loved them, loved team-up books. We've talked about this on your show, my show. My still defunct show, I should say. But there was, and it was $20. Now, it's not like it was $5. You know, it was a clearance rack. It was $20. It was a $50 book for $20. And I rationalized it and said, that's $1 a book. That's $1 a comic. And if for some reason anybody wanted to go to the back issue racks and try and find these, first of all, you might be hard pressed to do it. And second of all, to find them for $1 each.
Right.
And just like you were thinking, I don't mind revisiting any team up book, whether it be from DC or Marvel. And there would be a nice handy dandy thing on my bookshelf. I got permission from Connie and I bought it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I do the same thing from time to time.
Yeah.
because I'm not as organized as you. While I have all those issues, I don't know which box it's in. And I'm not digging. So there I've got some classic Marvel 2-in-1s. Not Project Pegasus, which is, a very famous fan favorite story from Marvel 2-in-1, but some of the early issues of Marvel 2-in-1. A lot of fun. Can't wait to dig into that.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous now.
Books A Million. Check it out.
So,
anything else in the DC book?
I just want to mention, I talked earlier about Wonder Woman leading the Justice League team, but there is the Wonder Woman Diana Prince, the 50th anniversary omnibus hardcover. Ooh, $100, George.
I was going to say 75, so $100.
$100, but this is 736 pages of stories from the late 60s.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever read any of those. I'm aware of them. I'm aware of when she made that change, but I've never read any of that. Have you?
Very, very little.
Okay.
I think I've read one or two comics from that time period.
Well, here we are now winding up hour 3 of our marathon of previews, and we got through the DC book. Marvel should be pretty quick, though. I hate to say it. I used to be a Marvel zombie myself, and I don't have much to say, I don't think.
Yeah, me either. But to start off things, at the beginning of the book, they have a new Captain America.
Let's see. You're starting with Captain America? Let me see where I'm starting here. Yes. Now, but I mean, is that something you would be interested in, or you're just bringing that up to let your listeners know?
Nope. I am not a Captain America fan, but it's being written by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yes.
And so that alone makes me want to check it out, just to see what that writer does with this character.
Now, that Alex Ross cover is beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Leinil Francis Yu is a phenomenal artist. So, that's a good team to me.
And, okay. Now, Eric, this is more our opinion about what's going on in the comic book industry with the big two rather than a previews episode at this point. But Marvel relaunched things with legacy numbering. And it seems like they did that just to get to some anniversary issues, because here they are, they hit Captain America 700, and now we get Captain America #1.
Right.
Right. So talk about pulling the wool out from under the fans, right? I understand, again, we all understand why they do it, but man, that's annoying. And I will not be buying this, but thanks for giving us Captain America 700, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I guess they did the same thing with Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
It reached 800, right?
Mm-hmm. And now we're at #1.
#1. But I wanted to point it out because it's written by Nick Spencer.
Yes.
Who used to write Captain America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, Ryan Otley, formerly of Invincible, is on Spider-Man.
One of your favorites, right? Yeah, but wouldn't you think that he's pretty well suited for a Spider-Man book?
Well, yes.
Okay.
But
a little hesitation.
I don't know. My first thought was, does his style fit Spider-Man? Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure. I don't know.
Oh, we'll find out.
The preview images we got here, they look good.
Yeah.
It's just, I guess I just have a hard time. Well, because I'm looking at these pages, and what I see are Invincible characters that look like Marvel characters. So is this a case of an artist who is so, at least for me, so established with a particular title and particular characters that I can't see beyond that? So in other words, is he typecast?
I hope not. You're going to give it a shot?
Probably not.
Okay.
Hey,
what do you think?
I'm not a big Spider-Man fan either.
Now, what do you think about the Fantastic Four coming back?
Okay.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I mean, they teased it at the front of this Marvel previews. So since we're getting into the Marvel previews, I didn't want to totally skip that. They're teasing that, I guess, next month will be #1.
I guess so, yeah, because it says August 2018. So yeah, it should be in the next preview. So, but yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I will be getting this. Yeah,
me too. And in the middle of the book, they have those True Believer things that they do where they try, what are they, $1 each?
Yeah.
Is that what they do?
Yep, exactly.
And there's some good stuff there. I mean, if some people have never read any of these things,
right.
There's some great issues there. In fact, I will say this. one of the first Fantastic Four related books I think I ever bought was a reprint of The Thing versus the Hulk. And they've got a True Believer edition of it with the cover. And, this is at the time when they would do Marvel Tales with Spider-Man. And I forget what it was called with the Fantastic Four. It wasn't called The World's Greatest Comics, but it was, I don't know, something like that. And that cover image of the Hulk and the Thing going at it together in more of a 70s, 80s, well, I guess there's more of a 70s style there, as opposed to what a cover of the Hulk versus the Thing would look like today. I like that.
Yeah.
That brings me back. Very nostalgic.
Yeah, I had these Fantastic Four True Believers on my list as well, George, and I may pick up about, if not half, definitely a third of these books.
And I'll tell you this Hulk versus Thing, if I recall how the story was, I mean, I could buy this for like a kid and just say, here, almost like a free comic book day type thing. Nephews, nieces, anything like that, just let them read some good comics that I think would be more appropriate than, say, a Hulk Thing battle today.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have also The Life of Captain Marvel, getting back into the book, a 5-issue miniseries, I guess, because the movie's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The new definitive history of Carol Danvers.
Right.
And this month is Carol Danvers variant cover month. Now, Eric, you don't get into those variant covers, right? Those themed variant covers.
Very rarely.
Mm-hmm. They must sell, though, right? Because
I guess
they continue to do it.
They make a bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, just because we don't buy them doesn't mean other people aren't interested in them, I guess. I wonder if people put them on their walls or something. Because, I mean, if you're going to take the time to buy that beautiful art, I mean, it is beautiful artwork. And if you're going to buy two, like a normal issue and then spend maybe $10 on a variant cover, maybe you do frame it and you put it on your wall. I don't know. So, some of these are very nice.
To be honest, I do, not that I buy like new comics, the variant editions of the new comics, but I have picked up certain issues of various titles over the years where I like the cover. And so for example, I got a bunch of the Alex Ross covers for the Justice Society comic from several years ago, and so I actually have, I don't think you can see it, George, my big head's covering it up.
Well, I see, I do see a Justice Society. It is behind you, but when you shifted your head, I did see. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I see.
So yeah, I do have, I have a few of those that I rotate out because I have a little sleeve that I put them in and so it's just on the wall. And so I just, every once in a while, will change out a few of the books that I have like that. So I do that, but I don't seek out variant covers, new variant covers, I guess I should say. Just, if I happen to come across one cheaply, and the ones that I'm talking about I did, I might get it. But yeah, for the most part, it's just like, I don't understand the appeal of spending the same amount of money or spending extra money for essentially the same issue, just with a different cover.
We warned you folks that our previews episodes are a little bit different than how other people handle it. So I'm going to tell a quick anecdote over here. One of the first times I realized how much more a variant cover could be on the primary market. Now, I'm not talking about this was somebody bought it and jacked up the price on the secondary market. This is how much the book was, I guess, because maybe it was, the store had to order 100 copies and they'd only get one, which of course bumped up the price.
Right.
I get these deal of the days, which I don't look at it in my email anymore, but there was a time when I would just see what is the deal of the day on this online comic service that I used to check out back in the day. And there was a variant cover from when it was the Avengers versus the X-Men. And it was a variant cover of the Phoenix Flame and Thor in front of it. And I forgot who did it, but apparently the retail price was $99.99. And it was on sale for something like $19.99. And of course, I look at that and I go, well, if it's a $100 thing for $20, I didn't pick it up. But I was like, wow, the thing that got me was some of these variant covers right off the bat are $100. What? So that was my first look because I always thought variant covers were just the same price. And then if they were going to be a little more, okay, but $100, oh my God. But I guess it was rare, the rarity of you had to order X amount before the store even got one.
Right. Right.
So I can understand that.
Yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend that much money.
It was a beautiful cover, but I'm not spending $100 on it.
If I spend $100, I want to buy the art itself. Not that I could afford that, but
I agree. 100%.
The rest of the Marvel stuff is just some trades I want to mention, George. So if there's anything else.
Yeah, let me just knock out a few things. I'll do it fast. Cosmic Ghost Rider from the Thanos series has his own 5-issue miniseries.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Ghost Rider in space.
Yeah, Donny Cates is apparently doing some fun things over there. I haven't read it, but Cosmic Ghost Rider was popular enough to get a 5-issue miniseries. X-23, talk about renumbering. Instead of being called the all-new Wolverine, X-23 is now called X-23 again. Numbers 1 and 2 come out. What do you think about this? The Death of the Inhumans. Again, Donny Cates doing some stuff here. I don't know what to make of that. It doesn't interest me. Although I have heard comparisons to the bad guy in this book. Comparisons have been made in the Twitterverse that he or she looks like the Batman who laughs from Metal, DC Metal. So there's been some back and forth on that. Now, what about this? Have you been? Well, you're not really a Marvel guy, so I doubt you have any interest in this. But X-Men Grand Design by Ed Pixor.
That is something that I want to read when it's collected eventually.
I agree with you. Back in the day, I would have been all over this stuff, but at $6 an issue, I think it might be worth maybe waiting for some sort of collection.
Yeah,
because it looks like a lot of fun. Now, what about? Well, again, I guess you're not interested in this, but what about the Wakanda Forever stuff that they're doing? I mean, they're really just trying to capitalize on the movie here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not interested in any of that stuff.
That kind of tie-in stuff, I just totally ignore.
Yeah. And even, I got to admit, again, back in the day, I would have been all over the Infinity Countdown and the Infinity Wars Prime, even the Hunt for Wolverine, but I've got no interest in any of that stuff.
Yeah, me either.
But, more power to you if you do, folks. Here, we're not trying to sell anything here. We don't make any money from doing a previews book. So if we're talking down on something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And if you like it, please, in fact, let Eric know in the comments, why you like something that we might be a little bit down on. You don't mind that I invited
Not
people
at all.
to do
That's
okay.
exactly, this is exactly the kind of feedback that I'd love to get. Why am I wrong about not liking this stuff?
Well, and here's another example. I loved the Avengers No Surrender 16-weekly event that they just finished. In fact, in my mind, that's what an event should be. As opposed to, like I was talking about, more about the current events, how there are all these tie-ins, and for you to really get the whole story, it just seems that everything isn't self-contained. This was a self-contained 16-issue, one heck of a lot of fun story. It was a rollicking ride. I loved it. But I don't know. The prehistoric Avengers from the Legacy book are kind of interesting. I like the idea of like giant celestials coming down and wreaking havoc on the planet, but they're soliciting Avengers number 4 here, and I'm not getting it. Even though the team is fantastic. What is it? Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness.
Yep.
I mean, you really can't go wrong there. But nope. I mean, I'm not going to pick it up.
Well,
tell us why we're wrong.
I'll let you know how good it is.
Oh, you are getting it. Okay, yeah. Good. So you tell me why I'm wrong.
Jason Aaron writing anything, I'm all for that.
The only other things I have here are in the Immortal Hulk. It looks like one of the characters is a reporter named Jack McGee. Wasn't that the name of the guy on the TV show?
Yes, I think pretty sure it was.
It's McGee, at least. I don't know if his name was Jack or what. But then again, they were pretty liberal with Banner's name. Wasn't he Robert Banner on the TV show?
Yeah, Robert Bruce Banner. Yeah, I never understood why they did that.
Yeah. So anyway, Jack McGee is back.
Yeah, and this is written by Al Ewing, and he's one of my new favorite Marvel writers. I mean, he did a bunch of stuff in the last couple of years that I just really loved.
Yeah, and then, he's up there for me too.
Yeah, but then he went to Hulk. I'm like, I don't like the Hulk. It's like Cap. It's like I just don't care about the character.
Well, they set up the Hulk, the Immortal Hulk, and some other things in that No Surrender story.
Yeah,
that I was just talking about, because he was part of that. It was him, Mark Waid, and Jim Zub.
And that made me want to actually pick up
Yeah.
Immortal Hulk, but I didn't.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I'm not going to either. I love, there's a page with, you know what they do in these books? It's classified, so they can't tell you what it is. And so why bother? And the only other thing I have in single issues here is they brought back Jonathan Hickman's Shield.
That was on my list as well.
Yeah, and what in here, is it in here that they're doing the collections, or is
Yep.
it still, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because the last previews, I think they solicited the final issues
That's right.
of the miniseries we've been waiting for years. I don't know how many years it has been, but it's been years.
And I
now,
had those.
And now they have the collection solicited. So
see, I wasn't going to buy those two singles because I knew I forgot what was going on there. So I'll probably go for the collection on that.
And you can get both. You can get the first volume, The Architects of Forever, and then the sequel, which is The Human Machine. Man, if they ever come out with a complete collection of all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I will get that.
Wait a minute. So those two books aren't everything? Wouldn't be everything if you got those two books?
No, I think you do. I think you get everything with those two books. It's just that I want them all in one volume.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Well, that might be nice to hold out for. And
that's a good
fully,
series.
Yeah, from what I remember. Before we fully get into trades and stuff, I just want to let you know what's on my pull list from Marvel. I like Marvel 2-in-1. I like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Apparently Devil Dinosaur is back. I like the Exiles. I tried the Exiles and I liked it. I'm going to keep going. And I'm looking forward to the Fantastic Four. So that's what's on my pull list. Anything else in trades or anything, Eric?
Well, I've got the Silver Surfer by Dan Slott and Mike Allred, the omnibus hardcover. I've heard that is good.
That now, again, if you want to amortize how much each issue costs, that would make it worth it. Especially for the quality and what people have been saying about it.
Yeah, this
might
is
be
like
worth it.
30 issues collected here. And I actually bought the first 3 volumes digitally.
Oh, so you have a lot. Oh, okay.
So, but I haven't read them yet. So I'm really looking forward to this. And then Patrick Olive comes up again because there is a new collection of Spider-Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to find where that is.
Why do I feel like I know those guys now? Like I feel like we should be going out and having a cup of coffee with those guys. I don't understand why.
But yeah, there's the Spider-Girl Complete Collection Volume 1 featuring art by Patrick Olive, among others. So there you go. And then this is one of those collections, George, that I'm really tempted by because I remember this title starting back in I think the 80s. Yeah, 80. Well, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. But this is the New Defenders. This is one of their epic collections.
Yes.
And it has a bunch of other things in here besides that, but it has about 11, 12 issues of the Defenders. But this was the New Defenders that featured Gargoyle, the Beast, Angel, and Valkyrie on the cover here. I don't know. I never got those comics when they were coming out, but they always intrigued me. And so
they were fun.
Oh, they were.
I remember enjoying them immensely. In fact, there was another character in there, Devil Slayer.
Okay.
He was a lot of fun. And when, again, folks, a different way. We handle our preview shows a different way. Back when I was a kid and I used to draw my own comics, I did a comic of the Defenders and it included Devil Slayer. And I can remember that because he was the easiest one to draw.
Okay.
Or at least I thought he was. Those you could probably find a 50-cent bin at a convention, though. Like if you go to Rose City, like you do, you could probably find them if you want to.
Yeah, probably.
But again, the convenience of having them on your shelf if you want to just grab it.
Exactly. And I've kind of gravitated towards that for a lot of the older series. Instead of trying to hunt down the back issues, I'll try to, if they've come out. I mean, it looks like eventually everything will be released in trade. So why not just wait and pick that up when they eventually release it? So.
That's true. Or me not being too much of a fan of digital, but doesn't Marvel, if you have Marvel Unlimited, isn't a lot of that stuff included in what they've digitized?
I have no idea, but
Yeah, I don't either. But I think you can go pretty far back. I just don't know what titles.
People should let us know if they are subscribers to that.
I used to love the Defenders.
You had mentioned Marvel 2-in-1 earlier, that volume that you got just recently.
Oh,
so they have, again, another epic collection, but Marvel 2-in-1 Cry Monster trade paperback. And it says volume 1 in the Marvel 2-in-1 epic collections.
Ooh, so what issues are in there? Must be...
You get Marvel 2-in-1 issues 1 through 19, and Marvel feature 11 and 12. So this is from the 70s. And nice. Then a Marvel team-up issue as well.
Cool. And that includes the majority of the book I just told you I got.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
a lot more. That has a lot more.
This Epic collection does? Or
yeah, because it sounds like
yours
it has,
does?
No, the Epic collection, because it has something like, 22 issues in there or something?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, mine has about 12.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is $40 for 432 pages.
I mean, those Epic collections are a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got a few Fantastic Four collections. There's the Coming of Galactus for those that want to, dive into old Fantastic Four, but then fast forward to, and I always want to point this out because it was so good. There's the Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman, the complete collection, volume 1. So I always recommend picking up Hickman's Fantastic Four run.
All right, let me ask you this. I have got the hardcover of Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run, but it says volume 1. I haven't read all of it. Of course, now I'd probably have to go back and start from the beginning if I was going to do it, but I'm wondering if there really is a volume 2. Or if there is a volume 2 and they just never made it.
Huh.
You know how sometimes they intend to have these hardcover editions, but maybe sales are low and they just don't go for the second one or the third one or whatever. I mean, it includes that spoilers, Death of the Human Torch. I mean, that was 10 years ago or whatever. Wasn't that toward the end of his run?
I want to say yes, but I'm second guessing myself. I don't remember now.
So anyway, I never got volume 2, not because I didn't want to or I couldn't, it wasn't in the coffers, but I just never saw it solicited. So now what is this? This is a hardcover or a trade?
Ooh. I think it was a trade. Hold on one second.
Okay. Because even if it was a hardcover, it sounds like it's smaller than the omnibus that I got.
It's a trade, $35, 384 pages.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a damn good deal for this run.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that so much. I have the original trades, some of which are in hardcover, one or two that are in trade paperback. So they're the thinner ones that you would get for, probably $20 back several years ago. So I'm almost
nice to see them starting again.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to get the complete collections and then get rid of those other books.
Mm.
All right, that's all I have for Marvel.
Same here. So we got this big book.
Let's go to the big book.
And in the vein of the Jerry Lewis muscular dystrophy telethons of old, can we get a timpani, please? Because we're at that time. How much have we earned?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Right. So the George, the first thing I notice here in the new previews big book is that Dark Horse is no longer first. Because it used to be Dark Horse, DC. Yeah. So who's first now?
Image. Yeah, those guys.
So
who do they think they are?
I feel bad for Dark Horse that they now get second place in the book instead of first.
All right, so Image. Let me get the book here with all my silly little Post-its. Where are we going to start? All right. So here's the thing about Image, man. All right. A lot of people say, superhero books, they're silly. I'm one of those guys who will say the 6-issue arc because they write to the trade. Writing has evolved. The storytelling has evolved in the 21st century compared to when you and I first started reading comics. It's a get off my lawn type of thing that I'm saying here. I understand that. But when you talk about Image, truly, if you don't jump in right at the beginning of any Image book, except maybe Invincible, which now doesn't exist anymore, you can't. You really can't. If you miss the first couple of issues of a series and you hear good things about it and you want to sample it, you either have to find it digitally somehow, dig out the back issues, or wait for a trade paperback collection. Then you decide whether or not you want to jump in. I guess that's why so many number ones come out from Image, because every month, I don't know. But it always seems like there are a ton of number ones. Some of them seem interesting to me. Some of them I have no interest in. I will admit, when it comes to Image, things like Black Science, Saga, and Wayward, I am a trade waiter on all those. And in fact, I think Wayward's coming to an end soon. I've been getting the nice hardcover collections of those. So when it does come to an end, I can't wait to finally dig into that and read it, because I've been looking forward to Wayward. All right. But anyway, that's my thing. So any of these number ones, I know a lot of people, when they do preview shows, they tend to focus on the new stuff. So is there anything new from Image that caught your eye?
Not for like monthly issues.
Okay. I will say I'm a little intrigued by this book called Unnatural. It's actually one of the few things that is going to be limited, because they say number 1 of 12, but I think it's already come out already. It looks like it's an Italian comic that is being translated for us here in the States. It has an interesting concept to it, anthropomorphic characters, and in fact, one of their variant covers is done by Milo Manara, the controversial Milo Manara. So if that gives you any idea of what the book might, what kind of content might be in the book, you might want to keep the kids away from it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I will admit that caught my interest. It was different, and I've been finding some interest in some European books. Let's see, IDW has put some stuff out. Some of the other smaller publishers in the back of the book. I've dipped my toe in the waters for some of those types of things. Oh, and there's a trade paperback of an adaptation of Beowulf. I think you and I talked about when the hardcover came out.
Yes, and
this is the same one, right?
That's one of the books from Image that I had on my list as well, because, man, I love the Beowulf story. Mm-hmm. And this cover, I really need to go look up, see if there's any kind of preview pages for this, but that cover just looks awesome.
It does.
And now we get a trade, so it's much more affordable for me. So this is on the list of things to get. Mm-hmm. And then we'll see if it makes the cut, but I'm definitely interested in this.
And I noticed I forgot if this is how Image had been doing it recently, but first they do their new series. Then it looks like they throw in their trade paperbacks, and then they go into their ongoing series. That's how they have things listed. So one of the trade paperbacks here, I was interested in this mini series, and they eventually collect it. In fact, sometimes I wonder if they collect things too quickly. But right on the heels of this mini series ending, they've got the further adventures of Nick Wilson.
That's the other thing on my list for Image.
Yeah. And I was going to do it, and I said, no, I don't. I couldn't really add anything else to my pull list. But this is an interesting, it's an interesting concept. Guy in his early 20s had superpowers, and now he doesn't have them anymore. What does he do as a washed-up guy who used to be a superhero? And it was 5 issues. They're collected. It's going to be $16.99. I don't know. Maybe. I haven't flagged whether or not I pull the triggers on another story.
Well, I'll tell you, George, this is the power of comic book podcasts, because I remember when they first solicited the first issue of this in previews, and I read the solicitation. I'm like, I don't think so. This is not for me. Flash forward now several months, and right before this May 2018 previews catalog came out, I was listening to an episode of Wednesday Comics.
Oh, okay.
And they were talking about, I think, issue 5 of the series. And normally I don't listen to them talk about comics that I don't read, because they run through a bunch of different comics every week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm interested to hear what they have to say about the comics that I'm reading. But for some reason, I think the Further Adventures of Nick Wilson was the only title for that week's episode that I didn't have. And so I just decided to listen to the whole thing. And now I want to read this story based on their discussion of that particular issue.
You don't know how many times I had number 1 in my hand at Comic Logic, my local comic shop, and I kept putting it back. And it was probably because every time I was in there, it was kind of a heavy week for me. And I didn't want to spend another $4 and then be committed, even though I knew it was only 5 issues. I just didn't want to do it. But then when number 2 came out the month later, and it was on their new comic rack, I picked it up and I had it in my hand and I said, "Ooh, I see number 1 is still on the rack. I could get them both." And I behaved. But is it really behaving if you buy the trade paperback? I don't know.
I don't know. Sometimes I know you're supposed to support the single issues, publishing, but especially when it's a miniseries, or I don't know if this is a miniseries, but if it's a miniseries from the get-go, it's really tempting just to wait for that trade, even though I know that sometimes can harm the series.
Mm-hmm.
But man, getting a complete story in one trade collection is sometimes just too much to pass up.
Well, I don't want this is a family friendly show, and I don't want anybody to think anything about me. But I said I was interested in the comic Unnatural. Well, there's a new original graphic novel by Matt Hawkins, Jenny Chung, and Yixin Lee called Sugar, and it's in the vein of Sunstone and what was solicited last month or the month before called Swing. Definitely adult content, and I got to admit, I'm interested.
Well, it's definitely an eye-catching cover image.
Yeah, and think of me what you will, folks. Think of me what you will. I don't have anything else until I get into ongoing series. Or do you have any Image pull list type things?
Well, I always read Saga.
Okay, Saga. What else?
Gosh, I don't know. I didn't look at that part, George. Hold on a second.
Oh, okay. No problem. I won't put you on. I'll let you know what's on my pull list from them. Sex Criminals, Paper Girls.
Oh, yep. I get that.
And I started Skyward. Only one issue as of this recording has come out, or I've only read one issue. And I enjoyed it, and I want to give it a shot.
I was going to say Kill or Be Killed, but I think that's done now.
I know it's ending. I'm not quite sure if it actually is officially over, but I guess that would make sense.
Yeah, but it's not in here, so they must have solicited the final issue of that. Wicked and Divine, I get that.
Oh, okay. How is that? Would that be something worth getting eventually down the line if they did a
collection?
Omnibus? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Someday. Beautiful art by Jamie McKelvey and Matt Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just I mostly get that series because of the art.
Cool.
But it's an interesting story, and I just overall it's just a really good looking book.
I will say this: McFarlane Toys. I always take a look at the end of the Image solicits. I like to see I haven't seen many of the sports related ones lately. I have a couple of the old football ones that they used to do, but I see that they've got play sets for the video game called Hello Neighbor. And I know my nephew is a fan of that video game.
Oh, okay.
And I wonder if sometimes by the time the merchandising comes out, are the people who play the game, are they over it already?
Yeah, I saw that and I had no idea what that was. So I just kind of...
Yeah, it's a video game. I went to Free Comic Book Day with my little nephew. And he really wasn't interested in the comics. He likes his video games. He's at that age, and he asked if they had any Fortnite merchandise. Fortnite being the video game that seems to be the hot item right now, but there was no merchandise.
Right.
And again, it makes me wonder if by the time that merchandise comes out, it has to get popular for it to get licensed, I guess. Then by the time they manufacture the blind boxes, the action figures, the T-shirts, whatever, I think they're on to the next thing. Makes me wonder sometimes.
Well, then I guess it becomes the purview of the diehard fans of the games that will actually get that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I've always wondered. Well, not necessarily in that vein, but I've always thought a missed opportunity is, especially since DC and Warner Brothers are the same company. Why are there no Big Bang Theory comics? Have we ever talked about this? I'm a fan of the Big Bang Theory TV show. They're in a comic book store every other week, and the only comics in there are DC comics. The whole store is filled with DC paraphernalia. Why not create a comic about the Big Bang Theory, almost like with Archie type old school Archie type artwork, like they would have done like back in the Star Comics days that Marvel would do.
Right.
Why not do that? I think it's popular enough that even a teen or even a preteen would read it. Just make silly adventures. They create a time machine. They go back in time or whatever. Just do some silly things. I think that's an opportunity missed.
Okay. Is that something you would actually get?
I would buy that. Oh, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you kidding me? Yeah. Again, a fan of the show, I guess.
Yeah.
That's why I equated it to the fans of the video games looking for video game related merchandise. I think that TV show of all shows lends itself to a comic, and I think it would more in the vein of a funny comic,
right?
Not in continuity like all the Star Wars comics are right now, but just a funny comic. You take those characters, almost like you would have like back in the '60s. There were Monkeys comics, Beatles comics. A lot of '60s TV shows had those old Gold Key or Dell comics. Just have some fun with it. Even Married with Children had comics in the 90s.
Huh. Very true.
I just think it's a missed opportunity. Maybe when the show finally ends its run, maybe they can extend it in a comic book format.
That's what I was thinking would happen.
Yeah. Kind of like Buffy. Dark Horse?
Yep. I got one thing for Dark Horse.
Well, you're reading Black Hammer, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So this quantum age where they keep extending the universe, you're going to go for it, right?
Yeah, well, yes, I am. And it's mostly because it looks like this is Jeff Lemire's take on the Legion of Superheroes in the Black Hammer universe.
I never looked at it that way. That's interesting. Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Oh yeah. On this variant cover, one guy looks like Chameleon Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
exactly.
Wow.
So
I didn't even think of that.
Because of that, so they've done now 2 miniseries expanding the universe. I did not get the first one. I wanted to get the second one, the Dr. Star miniseries, but didn't for some stupid reason because I've heard it's really good. So I ordered the trade for that.
Good.
But now that I hear that the expansion, the universe expansion titles are pretty good, and this appears to be something related to or touching on the Legion of Superheroes, I'm gonna have to get this.
Right up your alley, and they say ongoing.
That, yeah,
mysterious, isn't it?
That's interesting. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm wondering how you feel about this. Is almost like in the vein of Rough Riders when we were talking to the Rough Riders guys last week. Rough Riders had a 7-issue arc, was gone for a little while, came back with a new title, Riders of the Storm. Then that series, that arc ended. Then it was gone for a little while. Then it came back, Rough Riders, Ride or Die. Here we have Black Hammer. Black Hammer ended its arc. We had those 2 miniseries, and now Black Hammer is back, and it's Black Hammer Age of Doom or whatever it's called. How do you feel about that, where they put the cult, like it's like Star Wars? Star Wars was Star Wars. and then everything else was Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, and now even retconning it, it's Star Wars, A New Hope. But how do you feel about that colon following the name of the title to give you the name of an arc on the cover of each single issue? I can understand a trade having a title to differentiate it from even just simply being Volume 1, Volume 2. But what do you think about the renaming almost of the comic going forward like that? Like I expected Black Hammer to just start again at number 14 or wherever it had ended. I didn't expect a new number 1. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, if it's something where there's a definite ending to a story and then the next volume, whatever, colon, whatever is, as long as it makes sense from a storytelling standpoint, from a thematic standpoint, I'm okay with it. If it's just to rebrand something that has paused, like I think what happened with Black Hammer, just so they could drum up some interest in the series returning, even though the new volume of Black Hammer is really just whatever issue 14 or whatever it was, right?
Right.
But they rebranded and slapped number 1 on it. That's the situation that I object to.
And I agree. And you know something, this is going to sound silly, but it's one of the reasons why I never got into Hellboy. Because Hellboy just seems to have all of these different titles. And I'm not even talking about the BPRD or whatever the initials are, or any of the other side titles. It's just Hellboy seems to be a little too complicated to jump into because I don't know the order of things, which is why I'm not too keen on the renumbering that Marvel has done time and time again to jump in, because it was easy to know, okay, if I stopped reading at issue number 450 and now they're on issue 600, at least I have an idea of, if I wanted to try and read what came in between, it's pretty easy to go chronologically rather than try and figure out, oh my God, was it Spider-Man, The New Order, Spider-Man Siege? You have to know the order of the events apparently to catch up if you wanted to get the full story. And that's why I don't even bother with Hellboy. Stupid reason, but it's why I do that. And I wonder, people going backwards, somebody, let's say, talking about Rough Riders. You and I made it very clear the order of how the 3 volumes of Rough Riders are. Minus having although I'm guessing the Rough Riders point, or issues, stories like that, you don't want to say volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, because you don't want somebody not to get Riders of the Storm, because I think you can read Riders of the Storm without reading the first one. Although the first one is getting the team together kind of deal. Whereas Black Hammer, I don't think you could just jump into this new volume of Black Hammer and know what the heck's going on. It would be better almost like what they do with Saga. You take a little time off and then you continue the number.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So
I find that a little confusing and a little reader unfriendly.
Yes and no. I understand why they would potentially do that, like with Black Hammer, for example. Because it's been there at the end. It was kind of sporadically coming out, or there's some delays or whatever, which I don't mind typically as long as the book is good. But given that, it makes a lot of sense to drum up interest in the book. Marvel even said this at one point a few years back when I went to Emerald City Comic Con and I was in one of the panels. Somebody was complaining about why do you keep relaunching it with number 1 issues all the time? And the answer was, quite honestly, because we keep buying them. They said we wouldn't do it if you guys wouldn't buy them. And so it makes sense that they would want to get some interest in the series again by launching or relaunching Black Hammer, or any other series for that matter like this, relaunching it with a colon subtitle and a number 1. So I get why they do it. It's just, as someone who started with the original series or the first volume, coming into the second one, it's like, this is number, X. It's not number one, it's number X.
Right. Yeah, I agree. In a lot of those cases, it's just annoying as the reader. And in a lot of cases, especially with the big two, they're jumping off points. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks for doing that, because now I can stop reading.
Conversely, it's someone's jumping on point, potentially. So
you never know.
Just depends how they do it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So what is your one Dark Horse book that you better mention?
It's that one.
Oh, it's that one? Okay. then I'm just going to throw these out there. She Could Fly, #1, a new book from Dark Horse. Apparently, an unknown woman appears flying in the sky, and then she's never seen again. Oh, well, I guess she dies. And they call her Luna, a disturbed 15-year-old, becomes obsessed with learning everything about this woman who could fly. So I don't know what they mean by disturbed, but if somebody wants to start with a new #1, a new concept, there you go. And it's very interesting. Dark Horse is doing comics about Incredibles 2. I'm very surprised that Marvel, licenses that stuff out, but I guess it doesn't fall in their publishing categories. I don't understand it.
It's always baffled me that Marvel Comics isn't publishing Disney related material.
Yeah, I guess it just doesn't fall within their publishing line or what their business model is or anything. I really just don't know how they make decisions like that. Then there's this other book. It's by Roger Landridge from he did the Muppet Show comics a few years back. He did Snarked. Criminy or Criminy. It's just Dagum Criminy's peaceful life is suddenly interrupted as pirates invade his island, casting his family out as refugees into the wild unknown in search of a new home. And I look at the artwork, and it looks like old Warner Brothers, kind of like Animaniacs almost.
Yeah.
And, Roger Landridge, talented, funny guy, so I'm unfortunately not going to pick it up, but I know there are a lot of people out there who probably will be very interested in something like that from that particular creator. So I definitely wanted to bring that up. And then apparently Buffy the Vampire Slayer, this is going to be the last season, so to speak, the last story arc. So it's #2 of 4 is being solicited this month. So if anybody's a Buffy fan.
Yeah, I'm going to probably pick up.
Do you really think they're going to stop?
I didn't think they would, but they are saying this is the last one.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna pick this up and trade just because I want to see how it ends.
And talking about video game franchises where the licensing stuff doesn't come out soon enough, but Plants vs. Zombies. Plants vs. Zombies, a new version has recently come out, and there's Plants vs. Zombies comics. And for any Mystery Science Theater 3000 fans, in the back of the Dark Horse area, they have coasters and a mug. So if you like that kind of merchandise. I'm guessing the turning of the pages comes through on the audio, and I'm hoping folks find that refreshing, that they hear me turning pages here, as opposed to doing this digitally, because I do like the previous book. All right, what's next? IDW?
IDW. Yeah.
All right, now let me just say this about IDW. Talking about complexity and being able to jump onto something, I have this perceived there's a perceived complexity around the Hasbro license series that they have. And I mean, I wanted to get into ROM. I was buying ROM. I was excited about it. I was excited about the Micronauts. But man, when they started to do all these crossovers and stuff like that, they just totally knocked me off the series. And eventually ROM ended, the Micronauts ended. They actually had a ROM Micronauts miniseries for a while, but I didn't pick them up. They just, and in fact, once they started renumbering, I jumped off. I figured, oh, this is a perfect jumping off point, because now you're really confusing me. I'm not buying all these other books. And, more power. I see they're very popular though. When I was, at Comic Logic for Free Comic Book Day, and then a couple of weeks prior to that, they had their 3rd year anniversary party. And I had volunteered to be an extra set of eyes and just to kind of stand around, and if anybody needed help with anything, field some questions. You'd be surprised how many people were asking about not only the IDW licensed stuff, but just licensed stuff in general.
Really?
And I've heard I listened to a lot of podcasts, some of them comic related, and the majority of those almost turn a snobbish nose up at licensed property related things. And to hear that from random people at my local comic shop was A, refreshing, but B, it was surprising. Now, I don't know if it was pleasantly surprising because it means nothing to me. You know, it doesn't benefit me in any way, even altruistically, that they like licensed properties, but this is why they make them. Just because I don't have any interest in them, or I find them complicated the way they make them, people love them. There are people out there who really love this stuff.
I'm not one of them, but
yeah, unfortunately, I'm not either. I've dipped my toe, like I see over here, G.I. Joe, $6 Million Man crossover. One day on Free Comic Book Day, I picked up a trade paperback of $6 Million Man. It was $5. I said, let me try it. Wasn't that interested in. In fact, I passed it on to somebody else to read. But I dipped my toe in the water there. It wasn't that it was complicated. I didn't need a whole lot of history. It was a nice $6 Million Man story, but it was okay. It was a good diversion. I'm moving on. But yeah, in fact, if you listen to the George and Tony Entertainment Show back in the day when ROM started, I was excited about it. Tony was excited about it. And I know Tony didn't stick with it. And then I got disappointed in all the crossover stuff. So, But anyway, there's a lot of it here under IDW.
You know what's not in IDW, George?
What?
A Star Trek ongoing series.
That is true.
Featuring the movie cast.
That's true.
So, and I'm very sad about that because I really enjoyed that series.
What is the fate of the movie series? I haven't heard anything. I don't normally follow news on movies. I like to be surprised when I see something announced with a date. So I don't really seek out when is something filming. I don't know what's going on. But do you have any insight on new Star Trek?
All I've heard is that they are working on a fourth movie featuring those actors.
Huh. All right.
What that means exactly, I don't know.
I'm glad to hear it. Hey, did you see one of your favorites? Elsa Chartier is doing Star Wars Adventures number 12.
I know, it makes me want to read that just for her, just for her art. I love her art, but it's Star Wars, and I just don't really care about Star Wars. Not enough to buy a bunch of comics.
Well, speaking of Star Trek, though, going back to that, what about this Star Trek: The Next Generation, Terra Incognita?
I am protest not buying that series because I think it's taken the place of the other series that I was getting.
Oh, the Boldly Go?
Yeah.
Okay.
For some reason, they've they have the Discovery series that they've got going on now. They've focused on the Next Generation with stuff, and it's like I'll be done with some Star Trek comics for now.
And I see New Visions Volume 7 by John Byrne, the photo plays by John Byrne, the 7th compilation. I know you buy them individually,
right?
But Volume 7 is coming out.
Yeah,
so that's good. And I'm interested that they have Orphan Black comics. I loved the TV show, and I love that they're continuing it. At least sending Cosima and Delphine around the world. Apparently, it is kind of interesting that Orphan Black, again, a licensed property, but if you like the TV show, you can get a little bit more of a Clone Club.
That's a series that I have never watched, and I've often heard how good it is. So one of these days, I might get to it.
Yeah, I was definitely when the Emmy nominations would come around, I was always hashtagging with a lot of the fans for Tatiana Maslany to be A, nominated, and B, to win, and she did win one year. One of the things from IDW that's on my pull list is Punk's Not Dead from the Black Crown line. I gave that a shot, and I'm loving it, Eric. As you could tell when you look at me in my Walt Disney World Resort hat and my Captain America Shield T-shirt, Yeah, I was a punk rock fan back in the day.
Yeah, you have that look about you, George.
Punk's Not Dead. So yeah, check that out if
that's a great title.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the only IDW thing that I have on my pull list. And now that I'm looking, yeah. So Punk's Not Dead. I think I'm going to stop getting the quarterly. I know you were a little down on the Black Crown quarterly.
Yeah, I just got the first issue and that was it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Punk's Not Dead is basically all I need. And as I'm thumbing through here, they're they're reprinting Bram Stoker's Dracula with art by Mike Mignola, and I guess Roy Thomas adapted it from the original Dracula novel.
Yeah, that should look really good with Mignola doing the art.
And I think I remember that coming out because that cover looks familiar to me. Anything else for IDW?
Just the only thing from IDW that's on my pull list currently is The Highest House.
Oh yeah, how is it?
The Mike Carey, Peter Gross series, which is issue number 6, and this is the conclusion to the series. Although I imagine, depending on what they do with this, that they could come back with other volumes of this. But it's an interesting book because it's oversized, it's magazine sized. I
did notice that on the stands.
Not your typical comic book size, which has been, I will be quite honest, irritating because I don't have bags and boards for magazines, and I have no idea where I'm going to put them in my collection because they won't fit in my comic book boxes. So,
what about on your bookshelf?
Yeah, that's where they'll go. But I just don't like having individual comics on my trade bookshelves.
Don't they understand that, especially those of us who have been collecting as long as we have, we're a little obsessive compulsive about how we file these things? Exactly. Which is probably why we don't like the renumbering of things.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because people may disagree, but I do not see how the oversized format is being used. Well, let me put it this way. This could be done in a regular comic format, and I would get just as much out of it. So I don't understand why they decided to go with a larger size. I mean, you see more art on the page, but it's more background stuff, and I don't know. Right. I don't see the value in it. But
well, it's a good thing you're not getting the Barrier book from Image by Brian K. Vaughan, right? Because that's a horizontal book.
Well, I guess it depends on what they do with it.
No, it is. I saw it on the comic book shelves. It's horizontal.
No, right. But I mean, how are they utilizing that format? Are they taking advantage? It's not the size of a comic
book. It's not the size of a comic book. It's elongated.
Right. Yeah. So are they taking advantage of that format in the art so that you get something out of it more than you would just a regular size comic book?
And probably that is the case, but I was thinking more along the lines of how are you going to store it?
Oh yeah, there's that. It's like, which is probably why I decided not to pick that up.
Although, if I recall correctly, the free comic book day version of number 1 was in the format of a regular comic book, if I recall. I could be wrong about that. How about Dynamite? You have anything at Dynamite?
Let's see here. Project Superpowers 0 for 10 cents. So they're relaunching the Project Superpowers line.
Now, I know you and I, well, am I remembering correctly? You and I both liked at least that first volume.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, for 10 cents, I'm willing to give it a shot.
For 10 cents.
Yeah. I think I can do that one. I don't know if I'll stick with it, but I'll check it out. I know you weren't a fan of Hero Killers.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, no.
Oh, I need to exercise that comic from my collection. That's how much I enjoyed it.
But of course, you're going to get Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, right? Talk about licensing things, right?
I knew you were going to talk about that one.
Of course. Well, I just had to bring it up for your listeners. What about things like Charlie's Angels? Any interest in Charlie's Angels?
No. No.
Actually, on the opposite page from Charlie's Angels, The Switch, Electricia? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But it's a hardcover graphic novel of a supervillain who wants to go good.
Ooh, I think I missed that the first time through. I've taken another look at that.
Let's see who.
Oh, it's oversized.
Is it oversized? Well, it's a hardcover though, so
Yeah.
it's for your bookshelf. That's for sure. $20. Keith Champagne, Tom Nguyen did the art. I mean, the cover art looks pretty good, but I had it flagged as something that might be interesting. They do have. I mean, okay, you have Charlie's Angels. You've got Barbarella. You've got Green Hornet. I mean, they have some interesting. They've got
James
volume
Bond.
2 of James Bond. They've got volume 2, an omnibus of Green Hornet. I guess it was the one after Kevin Smith did it. So this was Phil Hester and Andy Parks. I think I have some of those. I remember reading that. I was enjoying it, but I dropped it eventually. But yeah, I do like the James Bond stuff that they do. Looks like they're collecting a lot of the one-shots in this Case Files hardcover.
Yeah, that's something that interested me as well.
You know what I just got? I just got the Casino Royale graphic novel that they solicited a couple of months ago. Haven't cracked it open yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. Okay, they've got Nancy Drew, Red Sonja and Tarzan. Oh, here's something that, again, budget be damned, right? They've got a new Sherlock Holmes miniseries. I picked up one from them before and I enjoyed it, and this one I was going to get, but I didn't. It's called The Vanishing Man. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of regretting it because I do like getting Sherlock Holmes related stuff, whether it be from a smaller publisher or the Dynamite stuff, but I did have to pass, I have to admit. And they just keep reinventing Vampirella.
Well, she is the undead, so they never die.
Yeah, they don't. Anything else from Dynamite?
No.
Let's see. Boom. Anything from Boom?
There was a new series, Bone Parish, from Cullen Bunn. I only mention it because I like Cullen Bunn's work.
Mm.
It's not a book necessarily that I would get, but if you like stuff set in New Orleans, then there you go.
It did catch my attention, as did Ruin World on the next page, number 1 of 5. Yep. Talk about anthropomorphic characters, although I think this is more family friendly, this one, than that unnatural one that I brought up before.
This actually looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then on the next page, Alice from Dream to Dream. Julio Macchione writes it and illustrates it, and Alice can enter and share dreams by sleeping near someone. And of course, hilarity ensues when that happens. But that's let's see, how much is that? Because that's a graphic novel, softcover graphic novel for $14.99.
Yeah,
that looks like it could be a nice all ages thing too.
Well, and the next page, Petals.
Yes. Certified cool.
Anthropomorphic characters. It's an original graphic novel hardcover by Gustavo Borges. So the art on that looks really cool.
Yeah.
And this is a debut graphic novel from the creator, who will steal your heart with this silent comic. Wow, that's bold.
And you see that artwork. That artwork's beautiful.
Yeah.
The sample pages that they have there. Very nice.
Yeah, I'm very tempted to get this one.
You go a couple of pages over, you have the Thrilling Adventure Hour, number 1. Now, I don't know, have you ever listened to Ben Acker and Ben Blacker's podcast? I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to do it on the Nerdist. I forgot the exact name of it, but they would always talk about the writing process, not only for comics, but screenwriting. And I know that you like the stuff that the Benson sisters do, Julia and Shauna Benson. They were on there a couple of times talking about the process of writing, especially since they do TV and comics. But these guys used to have an old style radio show.
Mm-hmm.
that they would do, I don't know if it was at Meltdown, or I know Meltdown doesn't exist anymore on the West Coast, but apparently they're taking their Thrilling Adventure Hour and bringing it to comics.
Yeah.
With art by Phil Hester. So that's, well, actually, they have two versions of it now. Thrilling Adventure Hour #1 and a soft cover Discover Now edition. I don't know what that is, but that looks like a graphic novel illustrated by Phil Hester.
Yeah, it collects issues 0 through 4.
Oh, so this existed before then?
The Spirited Romance is a collection of previously released material.
Oh, I see. Okay, well that makes sense then. So that's interesting. And I'll tell you, the only other thing that's on my pull list that's in previews right now is Mech Cadet U, and #10 is solicited, and I enjoy that thoroughly.
Yeah, that's on my list, George. Of eventually, I will get some collection and read that.
I think you'll enjoy it, and you know when I try and think of 10-year-old me, and I think 10-year-old me would have liked it too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't know what that says about 50-year-old me.
You're just celebrating your inner child, George. That's all.
That's what I try and tell the people I work with. Anyway, hey, they're collecting 2 Klaus one-shots into the New Adventures of Santa Claus. Grant Morrison and Dan Mora. Those Klaus books are good. I've enjoyed those. I have these already, so I wouldn't get the collection. But if you want to read something about Santa Claus in the summertime, go for it.
Yeah, the only thing I don't have is the Klaus and the Crisis in Christmasville. I have everything else digitally, actually. No, wait. I have the first story, the first volume, that miniseries digitally, and then I bought the print version of The Witch of Winter. And I somehow missed the Crisis in Christmasville, so. So I won't be getting this because I have half of it.
On the following page, I just want to point out Lucas Stand Inner Demons. It's a softcover graphic novel, and it's written by the creator of Sons of Anarchy, Kurt Sutter, and Caitlin Kittredge. And I read Sisters of Sorrow, that was also written by Kurt Sutter. I enjoyed that, so if anybody likes his style of writing or read, I guess there was another Lucas Stand book. I'm unfamiliar with the character, but check this out if you're a fan of Sons of Anarchy. Let's see, what else did I have? Oh, Giant Days. I don't know if you buy Giant Days. #40 is coming out, and I'm strictly a trade guy on Giant Days. I like Giant Days a lot.
I have the first volume that I haven't read yet, so I'm anxious to read that and find out what everybody's been saying about it, is if it's true or not.
It's great. It's by John Allison and Max Sarin. Fun stuff. And on the other page, just something I'm not picking up, but I just find it interesting where American comics are trying to go the way of manga a little bit, especially with Boom Studios. They have Fence, #8, about a fencing class. They also had, I don't know if that was in last previews or if it's here, but there was also one about dodgeball. So they're branching out a little bit. They're going to the almost like a little bit of a manga model. So I find that very interesting. Now we're really getting into the back of the book.
We are.
I have some Post-its on things. I just want to call the people's attention.
Okay. We
can barrel through. Do you have anything in the back of the book?
I do. So, yeah, and I was thinking the same thing. We could just mention them real quick, and because we've been talking for a couple hours now.
Are you still getting anything from Alterna Comics? Didn't you get the something about sidekicks? I forgot what it was called.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I've forgotten the title as well. But they last month in previews they solicited I think it was an anthology one shot. So I did get that.
Okay.
Or I will be getting that.
And I think they collected that series about the sidekicks that you got in trade, and I was going to get it and I didn't. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get that on the secondary market or something. But they have a new thing called Psycho KO. And apparently this is their version of a fourth wall breaking robotic, I don't know, Deadpool type. I don't know. Yeah. He's a fourth wall breaking, pinball addicted motorcycle riding hero. And apparently we've been waiting for him. and at $1.50, maybe worth a shot.
Exactly. That's the nice thing about Alterna is that they give you some cheap comics for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll bet you have something from Aftershock, if I recall correctly.
Is it Aftershock? I don't remember now. Just real quick, though, just since we're talking about some things in our pull list, of course, Strangers in Paradise from Terry Moore.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah, I did skip that. Mm-hmm.
Number 5. And I've been getting, from Action Lab, I've been getting their Actionverse series.
Oh, yeah. How's that been going?
I'm enjoying it. The first story was featured Stray.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've now transitioned over to Midnight Tiger, which is a character that I've seen in the Stray trade that I got, and he made an appearance in the story along with Stray. But now I don't know too much about the character, and so I'm discovering this character and this universe more and more, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Cool.
But Aftershock. Oh, the thing I want to mention about in Aftershock is Relay, which is a new series. And this is probably one that I will be picking up because it's got a nice science fiction angle to it, which I'm always looking for a good science fiction story that's not your typical dystopian future type stuff. And this, I don't know about this one yet, but I like the premise of it, and the art the preview art that we have here looks pretty good.
With no more Rough Riders, Aftershock has to get your...
I know, right?
has to replace it somehow, right?
Clan Killers is also one that caught my eye.
Ah.
Especially since it's set in... Ireland. Yeah, that's why. It's set in ancient Ireland. And anything that involves Ireland, I kind of have to... take a look.
Any listeners of this show know that we'll have a GoFundMe to send Eric and his family to Ireland very soon. In fact, Ed McMahon, can we get a timpani, please, as we enter hour 7 of our preview show?
That's right.
Hey, American Mythology is a very interesting company with their licensed products because they have a new Zorro comic coming out. Plus, they bounce back and forth with what old-timey cartoon, old-time comic licensing thing they're putting out in any particular month. And this month, for July, will be Underdog and Pals. And they've also got the Ant and the Aardvark, #1, from Pink Panther. So interesting stuff out there. That's some family-friendly, all-ages type stuff. Might want to check out if you're taking the kids over to the comic book store. How deep into the book do you have your next thing, Eric?
Not too far from where you just mentioned.
Okay.
The craze that is Batman 66 continues with Archie meets Batman 66.
Look at that Mike Allred cover, man. That is awesome. Now, you know what? It leads me to believe that this is a miniseries, but it's not. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say one shot. It doesn't say mini.
No, it does. It does in the text. It does say the historic crossover miniseries, but it doesn't. Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't say how many issues it is.
Yeah.
At least that I can see right now.
That is so cool.
But I would be very slightly tempted, George, to get the Dan Parent cover E, the variant cover featuring Archie as Robin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's nice. Man, they've got some good stuff there. And I will say this, talk about wanting to go back to your childhood. I'm not really a fan so much. In fact, I think it's been a little overplayed, the modernization of Archie. So I'm happy they're bringing back Betty and Veronica Friends Forever Travel Tales #1, where old school Dan Parent drawn Betty and Veronica, I guess, are going on road trips around the country. And especially for July release, I think that's pretty cool. If the kids are going on a road trip, you can get them an issue of that and stick them in the back of the car and shut off one of their devices for a little while.
I know my granddaughter Madison would love to get that particular book.
Let's see.
I don't have anything until Oni Press way back here on page 360. So if you got something in between Archie and Oni, Go ahead.
I have an obscure thing from a company called Birdcage Bottom Books, which makes you wonder what do they intend for you to do with their books if they're called Birdcage Bottom. But there's a book called In the Future We Are Dead by Eva Muller. She's the writer and the artist, and it's a collection of 9 short comics thematically linked in their exploration of mortality. Now, I don't know if it's just I'm getting older, but I like to see creative people deal with that very subject. I don't know why. Sometimes it depresses me. Sometimes I find it very interesting. So that might be something.
Well, you're a stronger man than I, George, because I tend to avoid those kind of stories now.
But let me tell you something. I've hear a lot of people these days talk about triggers, things that trigger you, and one of my triggers apparently happens to be cancer, which is why I've had a lot of difficulty actually getting into the Thor run that everybody loves so much. But Alzheimer's is also one of my triggers. Yet I've read a beautiful graphic novel about Alzheimer's called Wrinkles about a year or two ago. And depressing as heck, poignant though, and very interesting. And, sometimes you have to get past your triggers. So that book in and of itself is a trigger, it seems, but it sparked my interest enough for me to flag it. Whether or not I get it is another story, but I bring it up to your listeners just in case they might be interested. And I'm going to call their attention to on page 300 real quick from BuyMeToys.com, some reprints of the Oz Wonderland Chronicles. I seem to recall buying stuff like that, I think in the 90s. So that might be something of interest for folks. And there's a lot of all ages Wonder Woman stuff from Capstone Press. By all ages, I think this is geared toward kids. So they're trade paperbacks, and hopefully your comic book store will stock up on them so that you can go pick them up for the kids when you go to get your stuff.
It's funny, George. A lot of the things that you're touching on right now are things that I also gravitated towards as I was flipping through the book, but I didn't put them down on my list to discuss. So I'm glad that you're touching on them. Well,
and I'll go fast again. Disney Press, again, funny that there was a Disney Press, right? When Marvel and Disney are one and the same. But if anybody's a fan of Gravity Falls, there's going to be a Gravity Falls Lost Legends hardcover with, I believe, new material. I could be wrong about that part, but that should be interesting stuff. Let's see. I'll go fast here. Eric, you can, of course, edit out anything here. Now, Fantagraphics. All right. Now, I'm gonna call attention to 2 things here. One, Renee Tardy, Prisoner of War in Stalag 11B. These types of books with a historical context to them, I find very interesting. At $29.99. It is by Jacques Tardy. Again, I'm not quite sure I would pick it up only because of the cover price. I'm not saying it's not worth that cover price. In fact, if anything, it probably is. And if you're only going to buy one book, you might want to consider something with a little significance to it. Otherwise, if you want to go to Walt Disney, Uncle Scrooge, and Donald Duck, the Don Rosa Library, Volume 9, The Three Caballeros Ride Again, I'm a fan of the Three Caballeros. I say more Three Caballeros, please. And even at $29.99, I don't know. Maybe have to say, hey, early birthday gift, friends and relatives. I bought volume. I wanted to get volume 1 of the Disney Masters. They're releasing these beautiful hardcovers, and I think they're just randomly picking them out. It's these stories look like they'd be great, and I definitely want to get one of these books, but their volume 3 here is Mickey Mouse, The Case of the Vanishing Bandit. So a lot of interesting stuff. Fantagraphics always puts out some interesting stuff. Now, you said Oni Press is where you're at?
Yeah.
Okay, so of course we have to call out the Overstreet Price Guide. Number 48 is coming out, if it hasn't already. And now Lion Forge. I know Lion Forge, a lot of people don't talk about Lion Forge, but there was a book called Ghost Money that I was interested in, and I didn't jump on it, and I didn't talk to my local comic shop about it, and they didn't get it. So this is one of those cases where if you don't pre-order something from your local comic shop, that's off the beaten path, odds are that there's a chance that they're not going to have it. But luckily, Ghost Bunny is being collected, Death in Dubai, and it's collected in a hardcover for $24.99. And this is something that I have flagged as almost like a must get.
Mm-hmm.
I want to check that one out. So Lion Forge, Ghost Money. One other thing from Lion Forge, I don't know how many years ago this was, at Dark Horse, Gene Ha had a book called May. Did you read that one, Eric?
No, but I do recall that one.
The artwork was beautiful. The story was pretty good. But May has come back under Lion Forge for Volume 2. It's written by Mark Waid, and Gene Ha does the artwork. Number 2 is being solicited. I didn't get number 1, and I'm probably not going to get number 2, but just to call that out to anybody who read May from Dark Horse, it is now being published by Lion Forge, Volume 2. And for the kids, Lion Forge puts out Encounter by Art and Franco with artwork by Chris Giarrusso.
Yeah, I really like his work.
And that's a fun series. I get it from my nephew, but of course I read it. Oni Press. I've done all the talking. Your turn, Eric.
Let's see here. So I got to Oni Press, and I see, they're featuring the Long Con, which is a 10-issue miniseries, which is an interesting premise. There's a cataclysmic event around the Los Spinoza Convention Center, including the attendees of Long Con, the world's biggest and longest comic convention. But even while people don't know exactly what's going on, life continued for the inhabitants of this convention center after this cataclysmic event. And so I guess we're going to find out what exactly happened. I just thought it was interesting that a comic book story was set in a comic book convention.
Yeah, I had that flag too. That looks like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. We also have The Dam number 11. That's on my pull list. And that's a great looking cover from Brian Hurt.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Oh, and then on the next page, Stumptown Volume 3.
Yes, I know you're a Stumptown fan.
I am now. After reading, Oni has been putting out these Stumptown trades here in the last several months, and I read the first volume, and just fell in love with the character. This is written by Greg Rucka. The third volume, art by Justin Greenwood, I think, who did the art on the others. I just got Volume 2. I'm putting that towards the top of my trade reading list so I can get to it, because I love that character. I love this world that they've created. So, and now I get to order Volume 3. That's definitely going on the order list.
Cool. Anything else for Oni?
No, not Oni.
Okay, then I'm going to skip over to Quirk Books on 373. Do you have anything before that?
Nope.
All right, much in the vein of the Long Con from Oni, there is a book called The Con Artist. And it's an illustrated mystery written by Fred Van Lente, who does a lot of work for Valiant, another company whose stuff seems I have a perception of a lot of complexity, and I don't jump in over Valiant. But the art is by Tom Fowler, and it's an illustrated mystery appealing to all comic book fans and anyone who appreciates an unconventional whodunit. Comic book artist Mike Mason arrives at San Diego Comic-Con, which will be in July, right? So this is perfect. Seeking sanctuary with other fans and creators, and maybe to reunite with his ex. But when his rival is found murdered, he becomes the prime suspect. And as we always say, Eric, hilarity ensues.
Did you notice that they are now putting, because this is a prose book, this is not a comic.
Yes.
And they're now identifying prose books with this purple block with white text to catch your eye, to let you know exactly that this is not a comic book, even though the cover suggests that it might be.
And especially since they say that the art is by Tom Fowler. Like they specifically let you know that there is some artwork in it.
Right.
So yeah, that could be confusing, and it's good that they do that. But that looks like anybody could read that book too, any age group. Scout Comics is putting out a comic called The Mall #1, and that's hot on the heels of their free comic book day offering. And what that is it's set in the 80s. It's a coming-of-age crime story taking place in a small Florida town at the height of the popularity of the indoor malls. We all remember that, right, Aaron?
Of course.
When the head of the Cardini mob family mysteriously dies, his 3 illegitimate children each inherit a store in the mall. And what happens are hilarity ensues.
Hilarity ensues. I thought that was an intriguing premise because I saw this as well about how they have to take over a store to prove themselves. And I've never heard of something like that before. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. And I'll admit, I didn't get that at Free Comic Book Day. My store had a limit, 5 comics each. And when, in my mind, I have to get the Tick. I have to get SpongeBob. I have to get The Simpsons. I have to get Doctor Who. So it only leaves one left.
Here, just a couple pages later, George, did you see this from Somos Arte?
Yes.
Reconstruction, Reminiscing and Rebuilding Puerto Rico. This is a trade whose proceeds will go towards helping for the reconstruction effort of Puerto Rico.
And very, very clever name.
Yeah, I thought, Reconstruction. I thought that was really cool. And also I'll just say the character next to Wonder Woman here on the cover image, dressed in a stylized Puerto Rican flag, I believe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a cool looking suit. I really like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bought the other Puerto Rico trade. I can't remember the name of it now. Oh gosh, I have it on my shelf, but I can't quite make out the title. But it was another benefit trade that they solicited several months ago. And so I generally try to buy those. So I did the Las Vegas one. I bought the Las Vegas one. I bought one before that. It's unfortunate that we seem to have things like this to help with the victims of these horrible events, or to help with, like natural disasters such as what happened to Puerto Rico. But I always try to buy those benefit books. So, I'm trying to do my part, and plus I get some comics that I probably would never have been exposed to otherwise.
Exactly. Right. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
What about this new company that's in here, Starburns Industries?
I was going to mention that too. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, they made a big deal that, hey, we got a new company in here, Starburns Industries. And I read the article where they interviewed the creators. One of the guys is Dan Harmon. He's the creator of the TV show Community, and he's a co-creator of Rick and Morty, very popular Adult Swim cartoon. And it makes me wonder, at first I was wondering, why did it take so long for them to break into previews? But it seems that they may not necessarily have been ready to put out material, but now they're ready because their other multimedia things have that's what they were concentrating on. And now it's time to go into their SBI press. And after reading the interviews with the editors and some of the creators and reading some of the solicits, I'm interested in some of this stuff. And there was a Free Comic Book Day item, which I'm going to show you, Eric. It was a Starburns Presents, and on the cover is Patton Oswalt, a cartoon, a comic book version of Patton Oswalt, playing to a room. And one of the things that they're going to do over there at Starburns is they're going to team up with comics and pair them with writers, and they're going to write. It's going to be called Comics. And Patton Oswalt being one of the guys who we know is a comedian, and he's also a fan of comics like we are. It's perfect to have comics like that come on. But they have this Gregory Graves interview with a supervillain.
Yep.
And this hellacious book. They're just going to be putting out some very interesting things that I think might need our attention.
Yeah, that Gregory Graves one was, in particular, caught my eye.
Yeah, because some stories at the Big Two have been done like this. This is the world's sighs and relief that insane scientist Gregory Graves is behind bars awaiting execution. And when he grants his final interview, he tells his side of the story. In a world where so-called heroes with the power to snuff out the sun ask us to trust their pinky promise that they won't. So, I mean, we've seen things like this with Lex Luthor, like Elseworlds. Actually, even right now, isn't Batman White Knight going on? Where the Joker at least begins as the good guy and Batman is the insane one. So it could be very interesting.
Yeah, the other of the three that I saw from this company, Trent, which is a graphic novel. I just, it says Trent is a light tragedy with music about the dangers of hope and the delusions of love. And I just thought, considering that this has to do with music, I don't know. Reading the solicitation, I thought this is a really interesting take.
Yeah.
What can they do with this? How will this be executed? It makes me very curious.
Over at Titan, you don't read the Doctor Who books, right?
No, I do not.
Okay. And no interest in when they publish the 13th Doctor book?
No. I prefer in that case to simply watch the series and be content with that.
Well, apparently they do the Doctor Who books for Titan are very popular. There is a graphic novel called McKay based on the life of Winsor McKay, the creator of Little Nemo. And this just the artwork in here looks like it's awesome. Jean-Philippe Bermonti, and it's written by Thierry Smoldering. Very interesting. It's a $39.99 book, but man, it looks beautiful. And Winsor McKay, one of the pioneers. And I don't know if you saw the movie The Death of Stalin, but a lot of people out there may not realize it is based on a comic. And they're resoliciting it again under Titan Comics. So check that out. Some of those movies sneak in there, you don't realize they're about they're from a comic. Right. Yeah. Let's see, I don't have much more. When you come to the Tomorrow section, you've got Kirby and Lee Stuff Said. I immediately tweeted out to friend of both of our shows, Greg Schiegel, the host of the podcast called Stuff Said, but with 2 Fs, not 1. And I asked him if he had anything to do with this and if there were any royalties. And he said, no, because they have 1 F. And he goes, Stuff Said with 2 Fs. So that's, just had to make sure that Greg knew that it existed. And back issue number 107, The Archies, Nuff Said. Nuff with 2 Fs.
And again, I mentioned how they're distinguishing prose books compared to other things. So they're doing this with magazines as well, only with an orange box. So it's a nice visual pointer to these things that, because there's sometimes there's a lot of stuff on these previews pages. And, your eye might tend to just kind of gloss over what these things are, despite the fact that we have the cover images. I don't know. My eye seems to stop, at least for now, because it's probably new, on these little pointers, the prose book and magazine stuff and whatnot. So I don't know. That was whoever thought that up. They deserve a raise for that, I guess.
Believe it or not, I have something in the manga section. So do you have anything else?
You just mentioned the Stuff Said book. On a couple pages later, the Jim Shooter Conversations book. So this is just, I think, a bunch of interviews. Yeah, the collected interviews span the career of Jim Shooter. So he was a key player in my prime, comic book reading days. Right, and he's such a controversial figure in comics, so I just thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Well, I have something under Viz Media in the manga section. I'm not normally a manga fan, but I took a shot on a book called Dead Demons D Destruction. And I haven't read it yet. But volume 2 is being solicited. So I definitely want to read volume 1 before I know whether or not I want to go into volume 2. But the premise was interesting. There was an alien menace that's been around for years, hovering over Tokyo, and people have just gotten kind of used to it. That they're just over Tokyo, just kind of hovering and looming about. But apparently, they're going to start invading, and of course, it falls on some kids, some manga kids, to save the day. So it seemed interesting. The artwork looked beautiful. I gave it a shot. I just haven't read it yet. So that's under Viz Media. If you have previews, it's page 440, Dead Demons, DDDDD Destruction, Volume 2. So if you want to try and check out Volume 1 at your local comic shop. Now, the way previews is laid out, things like toys and the apparel, it's all in the back. So is there anything back there that if you had your druthers, if you had the cash, is there a statue or anything that you would want for your shelf, Eric?
Normally I can find something like that here, but the last couple previews that I've looked at, there's nothing really is calling to me.
Well, on page 26 of, I guess, what they call not the flip side anymore, but it says M at the bottom. I don't know what that means, but the DC Bombshells Batman Catwoman Deluxe statue. And it almost looks like it's a holiday statue because I think Catwoman's holding bat-shaped mistletoe over Batman.
Yeah.
But then again, of course, that's a $250 statue, and as beautiful as it may be, it will not be gracing any shelf in my house anytime soon.
That's another reason why I kind of pass over these pages because, man, it's a little too much.
And I'll admit, I do like the design of the Batman Who Laughs. And there's a Batman black and white statue of the Batman Who Laughs, designed by Greg Capullo, but that's $80. And I mean, that's a standard price for one of those things. But again, that won't be gracing my shelf anytime soon. On page 40, there is it looks like a Scotty Young inspired version of Ant-Man. You know, it looks from the solicited, I guess it was from one of the variant covers of one of the Marvel comics. But I have a statue. I think I might have mentioned this the last time I was on your show and we did one of these marathon preview things. I have a statue of Scotty Young inspired Thanos holding a balloon, and I think he has the Infinity Gauntlet on.
That sounds cute.
Yeah, so that's pretty nice. I like that. And the only other thing, I don't collect the Funko Pop figures, but on page 59, one of my favorite all-time artists, Weird Al, has his own vinyl figure with his old hair, his glasses, and his accordion.
Wow! So on the same page they have the Motley Crue vinyl figures, and so that must mean that very soon they might have something to do with Bon Jovi, and I might have to get that for my wife.
Uh-oh. Get her into the pop figures. There's one thing that I do like that has almost kind of made a little bit of a resurgence or a comeback is the return of lapel pins. Back when one of my first jobs was working at a bank, and I was kind of known for wearing lapel pins. And not just your run-of-the-mill American flag or Rotary Club type thing. But back in those days, there was a Warner Brothers store, there was a Disney store, and they would sell lapel pins of the characters. So I would have cartoon pins, sometimes holiday-themed pins on. So I've, over time, developed a nice collection of these pins. I went to 2 Olympics. I got into the whole collecting lapel pins at the Olympics, going to Disney World. They have a big pin trading thing there. I have Disney pins. It's nice to see that the comic book franchises are coming back with the lapel pins rather than just buttons. So I like that. And I've saw some solicited here.
Which page is that?
Oh, you know what? I closed the book already, but it was a Korra, the Airbender. Let's see, page 107, The Legend of Korra. So, I mean, they average about $9.99 a piece, but I mean, they're true lapel pins rather than just a button.
Okay.
Yeah. But at my local comic shop, Comic Logic, I've seen lapel pins of comic characters, other franchises and stuff, and I just like the fact that they're making a comeback. They're being more mass produced than being sparsely manufactured. So I might. Well, of course, I don't wear a suit anymore, and I say to that, thank goodness. So I really have nowhere to put them unless I put them on my baseball cap or a lanyard when I go to a convention or something. But I do like lapel pins.
This just proves how out of it I am, because I didn't realize it was a thing.
Well, it was a thing for me because, again, I was wearing suits all the time. So I would put it in the lapel, and then going to the Olympics, pins are all over the place. And then if you happen to hit a Disney park, you can't escape the pins being all over the place. So the thing is, I really have nowhere to wear them, except when I go to a convention, I have a lanyard on.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, I like to see that they're there for people to purchase again.
Okay.
Well, that was that was interesting.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff.
I hope your listeners got a little more of the previews catalog than just the big two and the other smaller publishers that are more popular. And I hope you and I gave them a couple of anecdotes that entertained them as we went through the book.
Well, that's the thing. I hope that is what distinguishes these previews episodes from other podcasts who do
right
similar episodes. So,
well, I find that when folks do the previews, they tend to focus on new series and they ignore the ongoing series, almost like, well, we know they exist, that's fine. And then it does seem like the back of the book does get short shrift on the ones that I listen to anyway. And I think we've proven that there's a lot back there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And if you really focus on the back, it might take some money away from the big two. If you have a limited budget, if you have a finite amount you have to spend, you might find something back there, and then you might have to take something away from the big two to give your dollars to those smaller companies, but for something with just as much, if not more, quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So definitely get back into the other portions of this book, especially now that Marvel and DC have their own, they've removed themselves from the main catalog. Now you can focus on really what's in this book and how much fun and how diverse it is, and things that you didn't even know you wanted are back there.
Yeah, that was my hope as well, given what DC did and what Marvel has already done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping more people will do exactly what you just described and take a longer look, a more in-depth look, perhaps at what's available besides DC and Marvel.
And look at it this way, folks. Eric and I go through the book, so you don't have to.
No, this is just I prefer to think of it as whetting their appetite so they'll dive even further into it than what we have done here. So
I will say I like the way DC set up their catalog. I mean, there's just so much you can do, but for separating themselves out, I like the format. I like the feel of their DC previews.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for letting me join you for this, Eric. And thank you, whoever's still listening to us.
Well, thank you, George, for joining us, or joining me, I guess. Well, joining us, the listeners as well, on this epic journey of the May 2018 previews. So, if anyone is listening to this and they would like to let us know what things that they saw that we maybe didn't mention.
Yeah, what did we miss? Plus, we want to know what percentage of that $75,865.48 you will be spending in July of 2018.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad. I'm looking at my pull list here that I have listed here, and some things aren't even coming out because they're on a break or they're ending. So I might add some stuff. You never know.
Well, I know I'm going to be adding quite a few new titles here, at least from DC. So
yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. And summertime is always a fun time to get some comics.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, I think that's it for this previews episode. So again, thank you, George, for joining me to talk about these books.
Thanks again, especially on the heels of our Rough Riders interview with the creative team. I appreciate that you let me come back and talk previews with you.
All right. Well, next time you're on, we'll have to actually talk about some comics that we've read.
Be awesome. And I've been catching up. So yes, I've got a bunch.
Okay, good. George, where can people find you on the interwebs? Just in case they're curious.
Believe it or not, I still maintain the George and Tony presence out there because someday, some way, I will have a new project and I'll just piggyback off of that. But for now, you can find me on Twitter at George and Tony or at George and Tony Entertainment on Facebook. Although I will admit, like I did the last time I was on, I'm on Twitter way more these days than I am on Facebook. So anybody who's on Twitter and follows me, they'll notice that right away.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, George. And if anyone, like I said, everybody would like to provide some feedback about their previews experience for May 2018, please do so. You can email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave comments at the blog, longboxreview.com. And as George has mentioned, I'm on Twitter a lot. I check it way too much. So you can always contact me there. It's very easy and I'm very responsive to feedback there. And my handle is at longboxreview.
One more thing, I'd be remiss. I'm a shiller. I'm a plugger. And I just want to remind everybody that I have not taken down the George and Tony catalog. So if, at the very least, if you want to go back to the George and Tony archives and listen to episodes Eric was on, because Eric was kind enough to be on my show when it existed, you can go to iTunes. You can go to realmnetwork.com. They actually still maintain the George and Tony page in anticipation of a new project. Or you can simply go to georgeandtony.libsyn.com. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, go check out George's still defunct show, but he's got some timeless episodes for you to listen to.
If you haven't heard them, they're new to you.
That's right. Exactly. All right, George, let's get out of here. Thanks everybody. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.